I'm not ready for that.
All right, we'll call the executive committee meeting to order. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved. Any discussion?
Yeah, we had just discussed taking off item number 8.
Yeah.
Lee and I have some work to do, so item 8.
Anything else?
To future.
Yeah, and I'm gone in April, so we're putting it in May.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. How about our minutes from our January 12th meeting?
I make a motion to approve. I'll second that.
Any discussion on the minutes? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Are there any public comments? No one's aware of any public comments? All right. Any supervisors not seated as committee members here? All right, our next item would be discussion regarding the MOU with the fair and then potentially negotiating with the Fair Society. So we'll move into a closed session. We have a lot of new information that we just got that we need to talk about before we move there. So if we can get a motion under Wisconsin Stat 19851E for a closed session.
I'll move for that.
Second. Supposed to do a roll call vote, so.
Yeah,
How'd that even come out?
So
we know everything.
You
about
know everything?
Yeah.
Motion to get us back into open session.
So move.
So I'll second.
All those in favor?
Did she catch it? Aye.
All right. Get us back recording. Back recording. We're back in open session.
Yeah, what she.
She'll-
And then she walks in.
So you found that out. I even showed up on my birthday.
Good thing is early in the morning, right?
Early. No.
Better start early.
It used to be, I would celebrate from here to St. Patty's Day, but I quit drinking. So
All right, get us recording. We're back in open session.
Yeah.
We're recording.
Shit, I second.
Oh, thank you.
At 9:02. Let's keep numbers.
Yeah.
Morning.
Sorry.
Shut that. Over here.
You want the lectern?
I do, you know. What agenda item are you guys on?
We are on discussion with the Fair Society regarding an MOU.
Awesome.
Good morning, team. Ready to roll? Okay. I guess the way we'll do this is we'll page 1 of the forward agreement from your attorney. No changes. Page 2, number 5 is here your reasoning or logic for putting that additional language in there. Okay, let's start with number 1 though.
Okay.
So you're referring to management and use of the fairgrounds,
Yep,
number 1?
yes.
We just, it has been reworked that we have the management and control of the fairgrounds to schedule things year round versus just during the fair time as stated here.
So the strikeout, the intent of the strikeout was just to make it a year round. endeavor?
Yes, because we put that down in. Yeah, that was in the original MOU. And where? We replaced it with 12, is that right?
I believe so.
Yes. So we struck that out and just put the Polk County Fair Society shall manage and schedule the use of the Polk County Fairgrounds exclusively.
Struck out that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there should be language in it that reflects what. Was in like that draft I sent you back in December. So something to the effect of, the language I had in the draft I sent to you in December says, the Polk County Fair Society shall have the exclusive use, management, control, and possession of the fairgrounds. That's what I would put. I would insert that. What we've deleted after what we've deleted in section 1.
You don't see it spelled out that way here. How are we gonna rewrite that then?
And we're just working off what we had.
Rory, you're referring to line 2.4
Of my December
of
draft.
your December draft.
Correct.
Okay,
Luann, what are we looking at here? Is this the December draft?
No, this is what Rory sent to me on Friday afternoon.
Right. I am saying, these are in addition to these changes that have been made in the version that I sent to you. I am proposing to insert in paragraph or section 1 the following language: the society shall have the exclusive use, management, control, and possession of the fairgrounds.
Are you willing to include that the Fair Society agrees to hold the county harmless
For what?
for negligent use, for contracting with people that don't know what they're doing, for damages? I mean, if you have exclusive control and the county has absolutely no say, not even access with reasonable notice, and all we're doing is providing money, and yet the county has liability exposure. How can both things exist at the same time?
Sure. I think
Can I interject? I guess it was not our intent when we're talking about exclusive use and management. That is for, that sentence referred to, or that paragraph referred to scheduling the use of the grounds.
But what your attorney just said is different than that.
the language that was deleted said the Fair Society shall have exclusive use and control of the fairgrounds and all fairground facilities during the time necessary to operate the annual Polk County Fair. I think the point I'm trying to make is, rather than deleting that entire sentence, my understanding is they just are concerned about the time frame. So they would like it to say the Fair Society shall have exclusive use and control of the fairgrounds and all fair facilities, period. And not merely during the time necessary to set the annual Polk County Fair, but all the time.
Right, exclusive use and control.
Right.
So take out possession. That's a different issue then.
Yeah, okay, but insert the word management because I think that's necessary. So exclusive use, management, and control of the fairgrounds and all fairground facilities, period.
Take out the second sentence. That's what this includes. Does that say strike?
Yeah, I think that's we strike. Yeah, yes.
They would have to tell us when to do maintenance.
Right.
If it would-
All right.
Does that language not give total control and exclusive use for maintenance then also? That they have exclusive control of the maintenance that happens on the facility?
I mean, that, we just have to separately address that. We could say, yeah, that there's, I mean, and maintenance is addressed further down in paragraphs 8 and 9.
Because when you give the exclusive and control of the fairgrounds, doesn't the sentence that was provided to us on Friday, the fair society shall manage and schedule the use of the fairgrounds, cover that without putting the exclusive and control and possession language in there? Of what Carrie was saying of just scheduling and managing what's being done at the fair and what those activities are? Versus throwing in exclusive and control of all the facilities.
I mean, the language that was deleted was in the version that was sent to me at the end of December. So the version that was sent to me by you guys at the end of December said the Fair Society shall have exclusive use and control of the fairgrounds and all fairground facilities during the time necessary to operate the annual Polk County Fair. I'm simply saying that we would delete that limitation on when they have exclusive use and control. But I do still think that the society has to have the use and control of the fairgrounds.
And that last sentence doesn't do that?
Right, that,
Left in?
No.
Right.
Not totally.
I mean, they've never had truly exclusive use of all of the fairgrounds.
Yes, yeah, in page 2 of the original, under Article 4, management and use of the fairgrounds and fairgrounds facilities, what we're operating under now, it says it is the intent of the parties that Polk County Fair Society shall have exclusive control of the management and use of the fairgrounds, consistent with the terms of this agreement. So that
Right,
is what we're
but from-
operating under now.
Right, but from a practical standpoint, I mean, there's parts of the fairgrounds that are, you know, cooperatively used for other things. You know, the agreement with the hockey folks that you guys have. Right, so it's, again, having exclusive use during the time you're operating the fair, and then also you're the manager and scheduler of the fairgrounds for the rest of the year. But the county is saying, we want to have reasonable access, we want to be able to inspect, we want to be able to ensure, since, again, as owners, we've got some liability. We want to make sure that, you know, when work is completed, we want to be the ones making sure that there are licensed contractors doing the work, and that it's not just a handyman, and that things have to be, you know, that it's causing slippery floors and people can slip and fall. And again, who's going to get sued? The Fair Society is going to get sued and the county is going to get sued. They're going to sue both of us. And so I think that's where the concern is, you know, don't look at what we're doing. It's all ours. It's all ours. It's exclusive. I think there just wants to be that cooperation so that.
And I don't think that was the intent, though.
Okay.
They have always been able to access the fairgrounds. They've always had a key. They could always get in there whenever. They've always been able to access the fairgrounds.
Right, but given this language, I mean, you could say, hey, you're trespassing.
Well, we can just put something in saying, okay, you know, we'll allow reasonable access for inspection and maintenance. I mean, the fact that, you know, we're the ultimate managers or controllers of the property doesn't preclude us from allowing the hockey people to come in or, you know, the Red Schoolhouse to continue to operate, so long as they're clear about who they report to, who ultimately is in charge, you know, which is the society. I mean, that was what the original MOU contemplated. So the language is exclusive control of the management and use of the Polk County fairgrounds. So that's not new.
So we move on to the next one.
Sure. County will work with the Fair Society to address structural repairs that are deemed necessary by the county. I suppose this is the place to address this idea of inspection. So we put in some language saying the Fair Society will you know, allow inspection on reasonable notice, or I mean, and will allow the county access if repairs need to be carried out.
They've always been able to access it. I guess we don't have secrets. There's not that. You can access it. You have a key.
Which one, yeah?
You talking about two now?
Yeah.
Around two,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, I don't think we had any problems with that the last time around. Do you, Mo? I mean, as long as we don't get limited access, that's the only thing. So,
Okay, what does it
Just
need to
can we
say?
add per county policy? Because there is a structure to do that for certain cost. You know, the county has a policy to spend so much money, we have to prove where it goes. Does that sound right, Melinda? That's where I think we should put some of that or not.
Well, I'm just working on Rory's language, so I've added potentially county shall be allowed reasonable access with reasonable notice for purposes of maintenance and inspection.
In two, is it?
Yeah.
Can you read it back? I'll type it in here.
Sure, county shall be allowed reasonable access with reasonable notice for purposes of maintenance and inspection.
The curious point, that we already have access, what does reasonable notice mean?
Yeah, I don't understand the need for that language.
So you don't think notice is necessary? Just say the county shall be allowed access.
Yeah, I mean, they're our partners.
Okay.
And as Carrie says, there's nothing that we're not doing anything hidden. We're not doing anything subterfuge. The county is available and able to come onto those grounds at any time for whatever they need.
Okay,
Shall be allowed access for purposes of maintenance and inspection.
or why even limit it for any purpose? Maybe just put in paragraph one, just say the county, notwithstanding the foregoing, the county can access the fairgrounds at any time for any reason. So
You guys okay with that?
I mean, we're not hiding anything. So it's your grounds. You have a key. You can look around. It'd be nice to know if you're looking for something, or we can always help you find something, or jointly meet if we're looking at these structural issues and repair issues, but
okay. Okay, in two, the county will work with the Fair Society to address structural repairs that are deemed necessary by the county. What is the mechanism for work, like the county working with the Fair Society? Who is going to be talking to who?
any necessary repairs would go through Public Works, so it'd go through more Norby.
Okay, so it's the Polk, it's not the county, it's the Polk County Public Works Director.
that is spelled out in 6. That's for emergency repairs. So if you want to add language to that or move that up to 2.
Well, I just, 2 and 3 address routine repairs. 6
Mhm.
talks about emergency repairs.
Okay,
2 and 3 are just like ordinary annual, repairs or maintenance that needs to be done. I have concerns about 2 and 3 because it's the Fair Society going to the Public Works Director, basically asking for money every time, as opposed, it doesn't seem like it's collaborative. It's if a need exists for modifications or repairs that have a cost that cannot be supported by Fair Society resources alone, then we can submit a request to the Polk County Public Works Director. I'm like, well, the maintenance obligation is the county's, and so whether or not it can be supported by Fair Society resources is neither here nor there, because it's the county's obligation to be performing these maintenance or perform this maintenance and these repairs. And so I think the process really should be that the county or the Public Works Director, if it comes to that, is, going to the Fair Society once a year or whatever it happens to be, identifying what repairs need to be performed, and then going back, and then you can include that in your budgeting process. But the way that it's set up right now, it's the Fair Society that has to, submit a request for a repair to the Public Works Director. That's only just going to be considered for in the budgeting process.
It's the same thing for any outside agency, any internal county department. We need roofs at Golden Age Manor. We need, and yes, things need to be done and everything needs to be prioritized in the county's budget. And maybe a repair that might be deemed needed by the Fair Society is not going to be the priority that year for whatever budgetary reason. So I don't think there's going to be any possibility of saying, no, we're coming in and we're gonna give you this blank check for whatever repairs that might be up. We've got a capital improvement plan where, again, certain things might become emergent because of, some storm damage or what have you, and we've got to reprioritize. The budget process is the way that the county decides how to spend taxpayer dollars, and we can't give some special consideration to one particular outside entity over all the others.
And isn't this process for those requests generated? This is the nuance. I think it generates with you guys, here's our list, as opposed to Mo going in and making the list.
And again, this is where the liability for the county, if we have unfettered access and we're looking at repairs and you're saying we need to tell you what repairs, when you guys are the ones that have exclusive use and control, then there's going to be all kinds of increased exposure from a liability standpoint on the county with that type of relationship.
How is, as a practical matter, how is it happening right now? Like if there's something that needs to be fixed, what right now is the process for getting it fixed?
Are you,
I'm asking you guys.
well, if it's something small, like fixing a doorknob or fixing, whatever, you have to understand that a few years ago, we did not receive money from the county so that repairs were done on the Fair Society's dime. But now if something large,
Let's say it's a roof. A roof needs fixed.
we would communicate with the county,
Who specifically?
Public Works.
Okay, so they call you, say, Fair Society needs, one of this building needs a new roof. It's 50 grand, let's say. Then what happens? Then you submit it to part of your budgeting process?
You go through the budgeting process, unless it's an emergency repair, we can't get to it. I mean, if a roof is leaking or something, it's emergency repair, they
Yeah.
would contact and we'd start that ball rolling for emergency repair.
And then budgeting process, I mean, it's gonna take probably a year or so to get it fixed otherwise, is it?
So
It's
your
not an
cycle,
emergency, like,
if it's not an emergency and a roof needs repair, it's a request to replace the roof.
yeah.
At that point, it needs to be evaluated on what shape it's in. Can it go out 1 year? Can it go out 2 years? What's it gonna be replaced with? What's the final outcome? But then we need to follow our purchasing policy. If it's over between 10,000 and 25,000, 25 to 50, 50 over, or under 10,000, depending on the repair and how that works. Does the contractor have a certificate of insurance to work on the facility? Is he licensed for commercial repairs?
And start looking at budget numbers in August. Things start getting built. And the final approval is in November.
But in the last 10 years or so, like have any of these budget requests been submitted by the Polk County Fair Society to the county?
Yes.
And then they've all just been, like, the work's just been carried out, like you contract, the county contracts directly to have this work done, is it?
There's been a mismatch of both.
So sometimes it's
Which has
really,
been confusing,
say again,
which has been confusing. There's been a mismatch of both.
okay, so sometimes it's, like, when you say a mismatch, sometimes it's the county contracting, or sometimes it's the county working, or sometimes it's reimbursement, which,
Both.
okay. I mean, I don't know, the current MOU says the Polk County Fair Society shall prepare a facilities management plan and submit that to the Polk County Forestry Recreation Committee no later than August 31st. And that maintenance plan will be developed in conjunction with the Polk County Parks and Buildings Department. So there's like 3 organizations that were involved theoretically in the preparation of this maintenance plan. I mean, I understand that some of those things no longer exist and that's not how the county operates anymore, but I still think it makes sense to prepare like a management plan. Working with Public Works, working with the Fair Society, so that they can submit something annually to whatever your budgeting process is. What about doing it like that?
It isn't annually so much as a 5-year capital improvement plan. The society and Mo need to decide what needs to be done down there in the next 5 years.
Well, I'm not talking about capital improvements. I'm talking about
That's what I'm
maintenance.
talking about. Capital improvement plan.
So maintenance is what, they have certain allocations of a maintenance fund. Excuse me, and then I believe that is what we went to the August meeting of general government and just presented our request for the budgeted items. At least that's how it happened this year. You know, there's like X number of dollars for maintenance, X number for premium money, you know, it's what has been our standard allocation from the county. That was done in August. We didn't change up anything, but there was the request for CIP stuff, I believe were done in June or early July.
Yeah, like capital improvements are addressed in section 8. And so that's a separate, I imagine that's a separate process. We're talking about doing things like putting in a new building or something, but I'm just talking about like how creating a maintenance plan, repair and maintenance plan.
That is the same as capital improvement.
It is to you, is it?
Okay,
It's
Yeah,
always
as
been
there's a
those
small
type of
dollar amount
things.
for maintenance,
okay.
day-to-day maintenance, something like that. When we talk capital improvement plans or 5-year planning, you know, that could be, it's an additional funding request. It's not covered under, say, an $8,000 maintenance item.
Yeah.
That covers a blanket of things. It's extra things like a PA system where upgrade the PA system. That'd be an extra funding request or a capital improvement for the facility.
So I guess I'll have to be educated, but there's like, since 2016, my notes are that the society paid like $131,000 in like various expenses for the maintenance of this property. Now, I don't know what, like, and the county paid like $171,000. I don't know what that was all for, but I just know that I have these amounts, like apparently the county spent $11,000 in 2018 on something, or like $10,000 in 2019 on something. How did that money get budgeted for? Like, was that like reimbursed to the county, or?
If it didn't come off the standard allocation for maintenance, they were extra funding requests or capital improvement projects.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, if capital improvement and maintenance are the same thing, then I still think that for 2, 3, and 8, it should be more collaborative than it is in the version that was sent to us. I think that my suggestion is it says something like the Fair Society and the Public Works Director will work together to create and it could be every several years, every 5 years to create a capital improvement plan. And then that would be submitted through the county's budgeting process. I have something of an objection to the language that's in this, because it says things like, only repairs that are deemed necessary by the county, and only repairs and modifications that can't be supported by Fair Society resources. And if that's the case, then the Fair Society has to submit it to the Public Works Director, and they're like, then they're sort of asking for money, and then the Public Works Director will give it consideration in including it in the budgeting process. So I guess my suggestion is, I think we should delete 3 entirely, and then say the county will work, or the Public Works Director, instead of the county, will work with the Fair Society to create a capital improvement plan or a maintenance plan. We could do it every 5 years if that's the suggestion. And then that plan would be included in the county's budgeting process.
So
You're mixed up. It's not every 5 years, it's 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah,
So
so
we
I
would
mean,
need
it's
to
not.
Done annually. Sure.
So, that's why you do it annually. Because if you get a project done, you get to take it off the list and add another one next year. So you do it every year.
Okay,
It's a
Thank
living, it's more of a living document as you move
Yeah.
forward and go forward that, and just because you submit things to the board or to the committee for budget process does not mean it will get funded. Depending on what the project is. It may revert to the following year.
okay.
I think it's important that, you know, it'll be considered in the budget process.
But they're two different
Both
plans.
Mo and I can relate that we put a lot of stuff in the budget process and we never got funded
Mhm.
and haven't yet, and I'm not even in the job anymore. So, I mean, just try and figure out what's gonna fail, look at the roofs, look at the buildings, look at what you gotta do, put it in a plan, hope you get it,
Okay,
you know, that's
Yeah.
it.
But they're two separate plans. There's a maintenance plan and a capital improvement plan. There's two different ones.
so I guess I'm just making a lot, I think I'm deleting 2 and 3 from this document and then saying something like the Fair Society and the Polk County Public Works Director shall create a maintenance plan. Maintenance plan for the fairgrounds. To by August 31st of each year. Of each year. Which maintenance plan shall be included in the county's budgeting process. How's that, Malia?
Submitted to the county for budget consideration,
I'll be,
just so that nobody later on comes back and says, no, this word shall means there shall be funded.
So then this is addressing routine maintenance and things that happen under the money that's allocated each year in the budget. And then but we're still, then we're moving on, and the capital improvement project is like the big wish list where you're putting the larger dollar items that are going to need attention in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, including that.
that's my understanding.
Yeah, that's a separate plan, because if you need a new parking lot, there if the power. Sewer line breaks, so you want to add sewer and water farther back, things like that would be on that 5-year plan.
Okay. Here's from- brilliant. Okay, so I've deleted 2 and 3, and I've instead put in Fair Society and the Polk County Public Works Director shall create a maintenance plan for the fairgrounds by August 31st of each year, which maintenance plan shall be submitted to the county for budget consideration.
So because you're removing 3, I just want the committee to be aware. That means the Fair Society is saying they will not put any money towards those projects. The only budget consideration is a county budget.
But isn't that a decision for the fair board to make, not the county? If they want us to take some of their funds that they have to use for some maintenance projects,
Why would the fair ever do that if,
in the event that the county didn't support enough for maintenance?
We've put
Yeah, the county
tens
board-
and thousands and hundreds of thousands and dollars of our money into that fairgrounds. Because what came from the county side was not enough to do the things that needed to be done. There are countless improvements that we've made on our dollar. And I think that fails to get recognized sometimes. That, you
Yeah,
know,
because the support from the county has been minimal at best unless it's been a bigger project. The electrical, that you go back a long time when the swine building was built, when the 4-H building was built. Otherwise, the ongoing maintenance up until the last 2 years or whenever it was, the support from the county has been $8,000 to $20,000. It's been rather minimal for that portion of it.
Could we address that by having a budget? The way I think about budgeting is that you guys make your list. This is the expense, and the revenue side of the sheet is county this, grants that, and you start packing it. So then you guys get credit for what you're putting in. And then we can see the full picture of what the full maintenance costs are. That's how I think budgeting should be done. Like, what are the expenses? Who's all in the pot? And then that gives you guys credit, and then also gives us a chance to see the big.
Because we have done grant money and other fundraising, and that money goes to, it's always goes to repair and maintenance on those buildings that we use, but we don't have ownership of. But like I said, we're perceived as sticking our hand out all the time, and sometimes they totally forget about everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
that
If
we
you did a
put
budget-
into it.
Yeah, if you did a budget that reflected all that and people could see, then you wouldn't have people asking that kind of question, I think. And does that get us into, is that like that the budgeting process is a fuller?
Well, and I think that was kind of the expectation previously, to have all their financials disclosed so that the county can make an informed decision as to how needed county funds are to supplement this outside organization.
That's exactly the concern, right? Is that by including county or fair society funds in the maintenance plan, you're like, well, we don't need county money because you have fair society money. It's like true, but the county has an obligation to maintain this property.
Reading the current MOU, Polk County Fair Society shall use income from all sources for the purposes of conducting the annual Polk County Fair and to carry out its obligations under this agreement in managing, using, and maintaining the Polk County Fairgrounds.
Which,
The current MOU,
where's that? Which one?
Article 5, number 8.
Fair enough. I mean, I still think under Article 4 that the maintenance obligation is on the county because it clearly contemplates there being a maintenance plan. But I take your point. It does say that maintain the fair.
And we have, but are we then in essence, the county's penalizing us for doing due diligence, raising money, and being able to fund things ourselves, and then you're not funding what your normal obligation to us has been, so we're being
So-
penalized for it. For
If you
being,
look at all of the other outside organizations that the county gives money to, including tourism, historical society, economic development corporation, all of them have requirements in their agreements with the county. These requirements include not only providing their budget, but giving us quarterly reports and an end of the year summary on their financial condition, so the county can determine whether or not it's in the public's interest to designate taxpayer dollars to that outside organization. How can the fair be any different than any of the other outside organizations? And somehow the county dollar comes first and the fair dollar comes last. That's not how any taxpayer-funded outside organization, they have to answer to all of the taxpayers.
The answer is for historical reasons. It's because what they did back in 19, whatever it was, particularly 1970, what was it?
74.
74.
And then 2003.
By giving the fairgrounds to the county, they're like, yes, here are the fairgrounds. Here's like a large plot of land. You have to maintain it. And that's the agreement that they have. That's like the current understanding.
So Roy, are you saying that because of these agreements, we can't do a whole budget to get, like a real budget that shows revenue and expenses and where all the sources are?
No,
You
no.
guys get credit and we understand where the maintenance costs are and.
So I don't know, I don't think, I personally don't have a problem with including in, like, I think we could put something in this MOU saying the Fair Society will provide financial information annually or monthly.
We
financial-
do, we have.
We can
we
put it in the
have.
MOU, so like you fully appraised of how much money the Fair Society has. And you, if you want to take that into consideration in deciding on any given budgetary request, then I mean, I suppose that's your prerogative. But I'm just saying that, I guess I'm just responding to it, Malia, by saying that, you know, she's saying she's saying the Fair Society is not going to spend any money on the fairgrounds. And I think the response is, we're just not obliged to, but we will. We have in the past, and we likely will in the future, for those items that aren't funded by the county. Because they're given items not funded by the county for whatever reason, and it may be because you know that we have money on hand that we could do it ourselves. So the county may say, okay, we're going to choose not to do this particular maintenance item because we suspect the Fair Society will pay for it if we don't. But I just don't want there to be some obligation on the Fair Society to like perform all these, perform all this maintenance or around like the current MOU says that we're going to create a maintenance plan. It's submitted to the county for budgetary consideration, or words to that effect, make it a budget request. I don't want to change that other than like the people that are creating this maintenance plan. Like the current maintenance plan is to be developed between the Polk County Fair Society and the one of the committees, the Polk County Property, Forestry and Recreational Committee, which I think is no longer in existence, right?
Does not exist.
Yeah.
Precursor to public works.
And so I'm basically saying we'll just replace that with Public Works Director, because I know that you'd like to do things on a more administrative basis now rather than dealing with committees. But otherwise, I don't want to disturb what the previous arrangement was, where there's this plan that's created, it's submitted for a budgetary consideration, and then it's in the past, some of it may or may not get funded.
And I guess everybody needs to be due diligence with their money and funding and not spend it frivolously, obviously. But so in our understanding, like Rory said, historically, this huge amount of asset was just turned over to the county with this original MOU. Now, I don't know who pays what the Historical Society, if they pay for all of their funding or repair or maintenance and use supplement. I mean, in these other entities, I don't know that. I guess there is, because you acquired a huge asset. That's why this MOU is a little more complicated.
Yeah, routine maintenance, I mean, if you want to put language in there that the county is going to be responsible for payment of routine language, we put a budget amount in there. The budget amount is 10,000 a year. Okay, normally the Fair Society has done all their routine repairs. If they have an outlet go bad, or if they need to do some simple repair, they just do it. If you want to put a budget amount in for $10,000 and have to contact Mo, let's contract our contractor to come put an outlet in or to change the doorknob, you know, it'll all get ate up right away and the budget will be gone. And, you know, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
I mean, we put a routine maintenance money in there, and what was it, 8,000? I think last year, routine maintenance money that can be used for various things of routine maintenance. And then we put the 126 or 36,000 in for capital improvement. There's no chance changing that language and making it so that when the county has to come down and do routine maintenance, it doesn't make any sense. It always has some routine maintenance money in there for purposes of that. Probably for a little larger projects. So I mean, to confuse it and make it nail routine down to the budget and then capital improvement, of course, which is already in the budget, doesn't make any sense to me. You'll have the routine maintenance money. You determine where you need to use it. Electrical box got wiped off a pole and the insurance won't cover it. It's a larger amount, it's $1,500. You contact Mo, he comes down, looks at it, hires a contractor, does it, takes it out of the budget money. But this language, Rory, that you're coming up with makes it sound like all that routine stuff is gonna be the counties to maintain. And that ain't gonna work. Because all that's gonna do is take away from your capital improvement money so that we can put $30,000 in there for routine maintenance, take it off the other end because we can't.
Yeah, and that's what I think my fault. I am expressing myself poorly. Here's what the current MOU says. Article 4 of Section 8, the Polk County Fair Society shall prepare through its Buildings and Grounds Committee a facilities maintenance plan and related budget requests to the Polk County Property, Forestry and Recreational Committee no later than August 31st of each year. That's what it currently says. All I'm saying is we replace Polk County Property, Forestry and Recreational Committee, because that doesn't exist anymore, with Public Works Director. We still create a facilities maintenance plan. We still submit it to the county. We still make the budget requests. It's just the person that the Fair Society would be dealing with would be Public Works Director instead.
I think that's fine.
Well, I think one of the issues is that, you know, when you talk, the county's gonna maintain the facility, right? They have to maintain the facility.
Right.
What is the fair, what does the Fair Society maintain on those facilities?
I mean, I don't know. I know they spend money on them. I don't know.
Right, and I mean, and to put hard language in there that says the county's gonna do all routine maintenance, makes it, now you have someone using county property that, not to any due fault of their own, someone trashes a building every year after the fair, we gotta come in and do all the maintenance to bring it back up to everything, and we're on that tab, whereas Article 5, Section 8 says the Polk County Fair Society shall use income from all sources for purposes of conducting the annual Polk County Fair to carry out its obligation under this agreement in managing, using, and maintaining the Polk County Fairgrounds. So there is a component there on there, and to put the hard language in that we're gonna do all routine maintenance is
Hang
not
on.
there. So, I mean, how do you, we still, you know, the fair does a great job of doing routine maintenance and stuff. So you have to be very careful on our hard language of what we put in there, because they do spruce up things. They do fix railings, they do fix steps, they do fix sidewalks, they do all that. And when they don't have that income is when they ask for, do we have money in the budget for this? Do we have money in the budget for that? So I just want to make sure that we're not putting that onus that the county maintains everything all
Yeah.
the time.
But hang on, look, what I'm working on, there's no language in what I've proposed in this document that says the county is responsible for all maintenance. I never said that. What I said was, it says the Fair Society and the Polk County Public Works Director shall create a maintenance plan by August 31st of each year, which maintenance plan shall be submitted to the county for budget consideration. I'll go further and say, if we want to include a provision that says both the county and the Fair Society will be responsible for maintenance, or something that says that the county is not exclusively responsible for the maintenance of the property, we probably could do that. I didn't say it's all the county's responsibility to maintain the property. It was just about how to create this maintenance
I
plan.
apologize. That's what I heard in the verbiage, the verbal things you were saying was
Yeah.
that we're gonna do all the maintenance.
No, this came up
Because that's what
because
it said.
Malia said, do we, she said something like, by taking out paragraph 3, then the Fair Society is saying that it's not going to spend any money on maintenance. And then I think Kerry responded and said, well, that's not, we already do that, and we will continue to do that. Even though the current MOU, well, just, we already do that. And so we would continue to do that. We continue to maintain the property to the extent that we can afford, are able. I don't know. Can we say something like new paragraph that says the Fair Society and or both the Fair Society and the county are jointly responsible for the maintenance of the fairgrounds. Is that okay with you guys? Sean?
I believe so.
So regardless of any windfall of money that the Fair Society gets. What that language would tie us into would be an arguable 50-50 split of maintenance. Somebody could point to it in the future and say, if there's maintenance that's needed, it can't be deferred. You have to pay 50% of the cost regardless of your budgeting process. Like all of the other entities, and this is your decision, of course, what you're going to recommend to the board. But with kinship, with EDC, with tourism, with no other outside entity, would we say, we're just, regardless of how well they're doing or how poorly they're doing, we're sharing the cost.
Do those outside entities have physical assets? As the fairgrounds does?
Some of them.
I'm just trying to address this concern that county is solely responsible for maintenance. I don't think that's the intention of the Fair Society.
I think the recommendation for me would be, those requests come when the Fair Society looks at their books and says, hey, we don't have enough to cover these costs, we need to go to the county. Not, we're going to the county first, and then if they don't fund us, then we'll think about spending our own money. That, it should be your dollar first, county's dollar second.
So then there's no obligation on the county, like for the CIP or anything?
No, I'm talking
No,
the
stay the
maintenance,
same.
for maintenance.
Okay.
It's the same agreement that we've always had.
Basically, the county's obligation is just for the fair, and you guys run it year round. So all the other year round stuff, you would have to maintain it then, because yeah, I'm reading this as the county is just doing for the fair. Because we do the state aid for exhibit costs and that. Anything outside of the fair, you guys are running it. That's what they're looking for, if I'm not. But
You're
you want to run
looking-
other events and stuff. So if another event comes in and it wrecks a building, you're collecting the money for it and everything, you're renting it out, and the county has to come in and fix everything. So now if all these boats go out, they tear the doors off here at April 15th, the county's got to come in and fix our own buildings, but you got all the money for it. That's it. I don't think it's right.
No, we've always done
Yeah, but we don't
repair.
have it in writing.
Yeah.
So basically, I think the people in the county think the fair is self-supporting. And why are they coming asking for money when they have so much? That's what we have to get through the people
But
and everybody.
if we're self-supporting, then just give us back the fairgrounds and we'll self-support. Well, I mean, right? What's the issue then? Build a grandstand, give us back the fairgrounds.
We're gonna call a caucus here if we're at a stalemate.
Sure.
Is there anything else you want to discuss? Otherwise, we're gonna go back into closed session and have a caucus.
We can find some space for you too, if you wanted to have like a more private meeting spot.
That'll be helpful.
Second page, Rouse on some of these or not.
Is that what you- Okay, so I can walk, Oh, you're welcome.
Getting through the first.
Yeah.
are we continuing to go through these edits first, or I'm sorry, I thought you were calling for a closed session.
Can we go through the edits?
Yeah. All right, I got. Okay, nothing in the MOU limits the county from providing emergency aid through a contingency fund transfer in the case of repair that county deems as emergent, okay? Nothing limits the Fair Society from making ordinary and routine modifications. So,
We discussed that because do you need a definition of that? I mean, it seemed like just recently we got our feet held to the fire for everything. So, you know, we used to tell you what we were doing and then we would do things. But do we need to tell you every time we're fixing a doorknob or every time we're replacing a hasp on a building?
I think it depends on what you're fixing. I mean, giving just notification of what you're doing is great. I mean, it's just communication back and forth.
Okay,
You know, that. You know, it's not like you're rekeying all our buildings and doing something different that I don't know about, so. It'd be different if you guys want to go down that route, you know, because we need to know that, because there are facilities and we don't have keys all of a sudden. So that communication up front needs to be done.
I think ordinary and routine would be anything that's probably not causing exposure, you know, like electrical work would not be ordinary and routine,
right.
you know, the work that was done. in-
Code.
Yeah, things that require things to be done to code, but like replacing a doorknob or replacing
Replacing,
a screen.
replacing
window.
locks on a building, painting something.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, are you happy then with ordinary routine, using that phrase? Yeah.
yes.
Any requests for emergency repairs should be communicated to the Polk County Public Works Director for consideration. Okay, we look at number 7. It's expected the capital improvement plan be developed by the Fair Society on an ongoing basis. Any future anticipated structural repairs and modifications intended to see county approach to be communicated to the Public Works as soon as practicable. Okay.
I think that is what we talked about earlier. So did you put annually in there? I mean, we give you our CIP information annually. And that maybe it's better to work with the Public Works Director than coming up with that ourselves. Is that what we discussed prior?
Yeah. Be submitted, be developed on an annual basis. Be developed,
It
7.
was on
8. This is 8.
Yeah.
It is expected that a capital improvement plan be developed, or rather than saying expectations, we just say the Fair Society, the Fair Society shall develop a capital improvement plan
Updated annually.
annually. Updated annually.
A 5-year updated annually. Put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
5
that it is a 5-year
year
capital
capital
improvement
improvement
plan
plan.
that's updated annually.
which shall be updated annually. Which shall be updated annually. Do we need to say what it contains, or can I just say it will be submitted for, what is the language we used earlier? Submitted to the county for budget consideration? Do I need to say that it contains future anticipated structural repairs or modifications? I mean, it will contain what it contains, right? Surely.
Right.
It's just gonna speak for itself, basically. So we go down the which shall, I'll use the same language we used above. Be submitted to the county for budget consideration. Shall. be submitted for budget consideration. And I think. Don't need to worry about. That. But delete the rest of that paragraph.
So we did skip over 7 that says new facilities may be constructed by the Fair Society as they see fit on the fairgrounds with the agreement of the county.
Yeah.
And I think that has always been, that's historically how it's been.
Yeah, there's no comment on, so I just moved past it. And then I just said, can I get a copy of what is this little red schoolhouse resolution? What does it say?
I can, it's on the website, but I can.
Okay. And do they have a lease?
Because that was action taken by the county board separate of the Fair Society. in 2017, 18.
I think it was by the historical society.
Pritchard, yeah. it was Mr. Pritchard.
Yeah, something that they could come and do that.
It was 2018.
And they have been doing their own maintenance. They've been raising funds to do
Yeah.
maintenance on that building. So how does that, where does that put us in between? Because are they reaching out and communicating to you what they're doing? Or are we supposed to be an intermediary, but I don't know what the language of your resolution with them states.
I'm gonna email it to Rory. I've got it pulled up.
Sounds good.
That's an issue throughout. Being the dynamics of the fair, it's no different than the Bone Lake, built Bone Lake where they do theirs. It's a county building. I know they fundraise to do maintenance on it and stuff. It is an issue of communication between each party and knowing on who's on what and who's doing what.
Because the food stands have always done all the work on their own buildings, but technically
They're county
it's on the
buildings.
county land, yes.
Right.
But I don't. Because we're all having legal discussion now, where does the liability fall then? I don't want to open us up to liability when those other entities are doing their own thing. So who are they communicating with? If they're supposed, the only one that has a resolution is the Red Schoolhouse.
Correct.
All of the food stands will communicate through us.
The Red Schoolhouse
is the
does
only one
not.
that does not.
Is the odd duck out. Yeah, no, it is a concern because again, they're county buildings. If the Bone Lake brings in whoever to work on their electrical to add a new panel or something, we need a new outlet over here for another deep fryer or a pie oven or something. You know, who are they communicating with and what liability do we have? Is it done to code and what's that? It is a question.
Typically.
And I don't have an answer for you. I know they go with you guys to make sure it's done.
Historically, they've used the fair's electrician. But again, there's been a lot of work done in that schoolhouse that none of us know who's been doing it.
Well, it's something- I've got it. It's just, it wouldn't let me download it, and then I tried to send the link and it wouldn't. So now I'm trying a different browser.
So do we need to wait or can we move on or?
I have a question about 8. You know, that we were off on the date, but see that last sentence is underlined. That any ordinary or do not need to be communicated with the director. Earlier, you had said maybe up in our discussions around 6 about, and maybe this was just emergency repairs that you're talking about, but that communication was good. Just the FYI, but then we codify it as not, so should we change?
So that was, I guess that, routine,
Right.
what's the definition of routine? If we do something that we interpret as routine and then it comes back to us, what you did this,
That was
what
your
were you?
question about
Yes.
definition.
Yeah,
So I'd included it when redrafting to address that same concern. I've since deleted it in the one that I'm working on now.
That's
your
it, just gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. First, I should be responsible for providing sufficient security and for working with local law enforcement and fire protection during the operation of the Polk County Fair and other events hosted by the Fair Society on the fairgrounds. I can't imagine there's an objection to that. In the case of inclement weather and or other emergent situation that may require the evacuation of the fairgrounds, tornado, active shooter, etc., Fair Society will work with the Polk County Sheriff's Department, local St. Croix Falls Police Department, and the Polk County Emergency Management Coordinator. However, the Polk County Sheriff's Department shall be the final authority on the matter. Again, can't imagine there's a problem with that. 12 was deleted. And I think the basis for the deletion was, yeah. And I think because, the implication being, well, we can host events anytime with agreement of between the parties. Well, like, we don't need agreement. We can just host events anytime if we want to. So you don't need to have agreement from the county in order to do that. So I was deleted. I guess I don't know if the county has a position on that, or you guys have a position on that deletion.
I think that's what we spent time discussing earlier, so that's why it was removed.
Yeah, okay. Fair Society is responsible for ensuring compliance with governmental regulations during events hosted or arranged by either party, including City of St. Croix Falls ordinances, federal and state statutes and regulatory rules. Well, rather than just reading them, I think I can just observe that it doesn't appear there's a dispute over 13, 14, 15, 16, or 17. Change I made was supplement and amend as necessary, provide biannual updates to the county, meaning every second year of their business plan. Could probably include in here something about providing financial statements to the county on I don't know if you want monthly, yearly, how challenging is it to provide financial information to the county?
Currently, Steve gets a copy of the financials from the monthly meeting and it can get passed on to Mo. I mean, is that, do you want that? Last time you said you wanted the review annually. Do you,
Minimum, and
do you want to see the monthly treasurer's report? Is that what
I
you're?
haven't seen any, so I don't know if that would help.
I think an annual report is fine, but it doesn't come from me, it comes from you. So you need to provide.
Okay, but we're getting requests now for the monthly treasurer's report. So I guess that I don't know where that was all, how.
That came from me.
Let's just say,
Curious, because I mean, you have a new treasurer now, but just, I was curious on how the fair is doing. I didn't think, I mean, it's a public document. Once it's approved and passed, that you could just forward those on to me. It'd be an ongoing thing I could put in the folder as we come time for budget process. I think you guys brought the annual audit report. You're gonna hand deliver that with you? Did you bring that today? You said you'd bring that?
We're still sorting that out. There's a lot of.
There is an issue with how it has been done. And the new treasurer brings a wealth of experience and has been educating us on what is proper and how it needs to be done. So anything that we provided you today is going to be inaccurate tomorrow until she finishes her review of what has been going on.
And she is ongoing, working with the company to sort this out.
who's
For
coming?
the audit report
Who's your auditor?
or the treasurer's report?
Carlson SB, the
Yeah.
treasurer's report that was part of the packet Steve got is what is accurate in current right now. The audit needs to have some additional information added to it.
So the audited report is, you have an
It's a-
annual treasurer's report that's audited, is that right?
It's a review. We pay an auditing company to do a review
Okay,
that is passed on to them, but it contained some inaccurate information this year and we're trying to get it to be an accurate document.
all right, well, for the purpose of this MOU, let's just say you'll provide that audited report
As soon as it's done.
to the
I mean,
county
yeah.
every year, because that's by far the most, going to be the most accurate document, because it's been audited. And then I won't include in the MOU, but I would just say it makes sense to continue to share the monthly treasurer's
To
report.
give the liaison and the public works director
Yeah.
the monthly treasures.
But I'm not going to put that in here
All right.
because it's just, it's a little bit like doing the repairs on the side, you know, it doesn't need to be in the MOU, you can just continue to do what you're doing.
And I'm fine with that as long as it's delineated.
The Fair Society shall provide the county with its annual auditor's report. Is that what you call it?
Yep, that's what it is. It's a review by an auditor, so it's an auditor's report.
The annual report. With a copy of its annual auditor's report.
So not that this would happen. that arguably in the future, new fair board, new people managing the grounds. And there could be an event that the county couldn't be a part of funding that you authorized. I can't think of what those might be. Naked mud wrestling, I don't know. You know, something racist, something, and again, I'm not saying that this would ever happen.
Something
some-
something religious, you know?
So, well, I don't know that we could say no to, you know, anyway, you can see where there would be an issue if there was something bizarre. And so I'm not saying that the county should have some type of veto authority, but maybe just some language in here that says the fair agrees to not.
So what you're saying is you think the fair board in their best judgment would do something that the county won't agree with?
No, I don't, but I'm.
So here's an
saying-
example.
Because I mean, that's a reflection on everybody that's been on the fair board for the last
Right,
100 years.
and that's why I
And
prefaced
the
it by
people that
saying
are on
not
the-
that this
the
would
People that
happen.
are on the fair board are very concerned about what events they hold there and how they go about
Sure.
contracting.
And
with
again, that's why I prefaced it with, I doubt this would ever happen, but if you had new characters on the fair board at some point in the future, and I'm not suggesting that this is likely, I'm just saying. That it would be. a
What if the county board changed and had a different view or different,
That happens all the time.
and had a different view on what the fair board was doing?
And that could happen.
So what protects you, what should also protect the fair board?
But we're a government entity, so there's rules we have to follow that you don't. That's all I'm saying.
I think we did a recital under 2 where the Polk County Fairgrounds serves as a venue to educate, showcase, and entertain the residents of Polk County. I assume that what you're saying is if they chose to entertain somebody in a
Right.
improper, unfitting way, but
But we still also have to answer to St. Croix, the city.
yeah.
And, you know, we have, some of those they're all permit. What you're referring to are events that require a permit from the city.
Yep.
So you really think they'd give us a permit for that? We can't
The
hold it
property owner,
without.
I'm sure they would want us to sign up on the permit application,
So,
but I could imagine one that wouldn't require a permit. I'm just going down a rabbit hole, I suppose.
Yeah, because any other non-fair event would require a permit if it was going to be, other than the grounds being rented for some personal wedding or a graduation party or.
Does that happen?
or.
Yeah.
Definitely, we get.
Okay, so we got it, the society is gonna provide Mo and I with monthly. It's gonna be, we don't need verbiage for that.
I'm not putting that in the MOU, but
The
that's,
annual,
So
the
it
annual
is-
finances don't need to be in the.
yeah, that's in there.
The annual auditor's review will be given to the county board. And that, so now, I mean, the county board liaison has always had access to financial information. But now the public works director is requesting that also.
Just once your treasurer report's approved, it's fine.
So just from our finance department, who is not fully here today, all of the other outside organizations provide reports at least quarterly, if not monthly. Is that something that you guys have and could? there
Now
reason?
there's a very detailed monthly report generated.
That's, I mean,
And if that's what they,
that's a treasurer's report that we will,
it's the treasurer's report, and now it is snapshot profit and loss and everything generated from QuickBooks. So I don't, if you looked at it, you can see that it got sent to you the last since January. So it's all there, you can see.
So you'd be willing to do that? That'd be.
Yeah, it is. We don't have anything to hide.
Fair Society is responsible for the cost of utilities except for water and sewer needed to operate the fairgrounds for all the Fair Society events. So I said except for water and sewer because I believe the county pays water and sewer. I could be mistaken.
Yes.
Should we name the other utilities? Should it- that it's electric, internet, gas?
I mean, I think just leave it away because every other utility, other than water and sewer, if it's a utility, will pay it. Fair Society may collect a county user fee. And then this fee will be turned over to Polk County. I guess I'm like, I don't like the reference to once the new grandstand has been built. I think,
It was in the original MOU, they were gonna collect gate money.
Yeah.
This, when we did our first draft back in August of 2020. I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer, but I put that in there, so.
no, you're good.
If it needs to be deleted, it can be deleted. It specified them receiving money from the operation of the fair under a certain condition.
Right. I think, let's not reference the grandstand right now, because I'll just put in, may collect the county user fee, which shall be turned over to Polk County.
Why don't we just delete
No,
I think that the grandstand is really important, because if you go back to the original MOU that is in place now,
Yeah,
that's there.
yeah, I'm not saying get rid of strike the grandstand, I'm saying just strike from this provision. I mean, I think there needs to be language in this MOU saying the county shall provide a grandstand. But I wouldn't relate it to a county user fee, I just put it in as a separate item, just saying the county shall provide a grandstand on all facilities, just like it says in the current MOU.
Well, how we got to this point was, our proposal was the Fair Society shall collect and turn over. And you then countered with may collect. So this was your language that you added.
no, May collect came from last December.
That's what I mean.
Kim
In
put that
December,
in.
yeah.
Our counter was that the user fee be paid to you once a grandstand was built, and that it was then entitled to county user fee, so that people attending the fair know that that is what it's for, that that money for them sitting in that newly constructed grandstand was going back to Polk County to help fund it.
So the county would be collecting it?
The fair would collect that user fee for using the grandstand, and that would go to the county, because in your original January 2020 MOU,
Yep.
you were collecting a user fee from every person coming in the gate.
In the gate, right,
That's what you were proposing.
right.
We countered, we took that out, and we tied your getting money back from the fair to the new grandstand. Once it's built, if there's a user fee for the people attending the events that sit in the grandstand,
Isn't that what 20 says?
No, are you saying that we first said we wanted a user fee on everybody who walks in the gate? and you're
Yes.
saying we want a user fee on the people who are sitting in the grandstand?
yes,
A new grandstand,
a new grandstand.
not the temporary or anything. like
Right, so it
that,
says.
a new-
How
Yes.
are you gonna collect the fee, just for people sitting in the grandstand?
We would charge, it would be an admission fee.
What, like at the gate or when you're walking to the grandstand?
Going to the event held in front of the grandstand.
Okay,
Hence, it's, yeah, so it's split off.
so it's like a separate fee. If I go to the fair, I may not pay this fee if I don't go to that event.
Right. And then it's tied in directly back to the county, so that the people putting their seats on that new grandstand know that the money they're paying because of that is going back to the county.
Okay, so what about, first I may collect a county user fee from any person attending an event at the grandstand facility, which fee will be turned over to Polk County.
However, whatever the correct legal
I don't
verbiage
know
is.
the correct legal
Like I
name.
said, I put it in there after discussion with the group,
Sure,
because you know, they were not getting any of our gate funding before. Obviously, the intent was to help it being the county finance or recoup some of the grandstand money. So then we felt it should be tied directly to the grandstand usage.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So can we change that to shall? Once the grandstand is built, the Fair Society shall charge a user fee for the grandstand?
May, because I think we went back to our discussion in December, you saw that we have money put away for that, that May left it open-ended.
But
That's what
if-
Kim said in December.
If you decide to collect it,
It wouldn't be us, it would be you. The fair itself would collect the money and it would be turned over to you if you deem you want that money to recoup the cost of the grandstand.
right, but it says the Fair Society may. So you're saying the county can direct the Fair Society to charge a user fee?
Yeah, the Fair Society may collect the county user fee to be determined once the new grandstand facility is operational. And this fee will be turned over to Polk County. So that statement says that when a new grandstand is built, if the county board, administration, whomever decides that they need to recoup funds, that then a user fee would be charged.
That's not what this says. This says the Fair Society can determine whether or not to charge a user fee. But if they decide to charge a user fee, then they shall turn it over to Polk County. Nothing in here says that Polk County is saying you must charge a user fee. So what you want is something different than what this language says.
So
You want the county board, so you can say, we're really sorry, we're charging you $1 to get in here. The mean old county doesn't want you to.
Yeah.
That's what you want. Okay, got it.
So there'll be a reduction in the gate entrance fee then, because currently all those events are included in the.
yeah, years ago, historically, you used to pay to get into the gate and you used to pay to go to a grandstand event. A lot of fairs are like that now. We did away with it and put $1 or $2, whatever on, so that you don't pay any fees other than to get into the fairgrounds. That's how it was. So if, like I say, this was all tied into the fact that there was a significant amount of money spent on building a new grandstand. Because I said, it came in the original document that came to us, you wanted a part of every dollar, you wanted $2 from every person going into the fairgrounds. That was in Lydia's original MOU to us. This is our counter. And maybe it's not written the way it should be, but if the county deemed they still wanted compensation, that it would come from the grandstand.
So how about the county, rather than the Fair Society, the county may charge a user fee from any person attending an event at the grandstand facility. Period.
Okay, walk me through the logistics of that.
Bear with me. This fee shall be collected by the Fair Society and turned over to the county.
I will personally pay for your entrance fee and give you a little money belt so that you can come in and sit.
All I picture is a big
That at
sign.
least is consistent with what I think we're trying to propose.
All I
What-
picture is a big sign by the grandstand that says, this is a county user fee. If you want to come in here.
Well,
Talk
it
to your
is,
county
but-
board supervisor for
but-
putting this fee on us.
But, no, that is what it
And
is.
she's, I mean,
That's,
she's.
that's exactly,
Yes.
that's exactly where this came out of, because of the discussion about a new grandstand, and the county said, we're requiring you to put a user fee on. So however you paint the picture, that's the way it is. Now, I have a little bit of a problem with this because currently there is no user fee or no extra charges for people that come to the horse pull, the truck pull, or the tractor pull. And the reason we did away with that is then you've got to have people stationed at areas to take money. So and in most of those positions, you're paying, the ticket people get paid, all of that. So there becomes a cost that's incurred by the fair board to do that. Plus, it created some, I don't want to say issues, but so you're going to charge a 3-year-old kid the same price or a reduced price, whatever, for mom and dad who might only see half of this production because they got to take the kid out halfway through. So there was some issues that kind of came up about trying to get a separate entrance fee for those issues. It's a lot easier and a lot cleaner not to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the only intent of this was, at the original discussion, was that the committee at the time wanted to know how can we recoup some costs for the investment of the grandstand? Whether that's a quarter at the gate fee or 10 cents at the gate fee, that, and then that money's kind of like earmarked back for maintenance of the grandstands or maintenance of the facility itself. It's just not coming into coffers for the general fund, but that was the intent. And the initial discussion was that this was one component, you know, what's the counter to it? This was like the first throw at the pitch, you know? So if it comes to be, the grandstand is gonna last 40 years and it's a nickel at the increase at the gate, you know, that the committee feels forward, or the committee feels there isn't necessary for that payback, you know? I said, that was just our initial kick, you know,
And this
whatever
is
that
what we
comes
kick
back.
back to you.
Right, it was the dollar, you know, with that, right? So I mean, if the committee decides that, you know, it's a nickel per head or a 10 cents per head, whether you go to the grandstand or not, or whether there's no compensation, it's a committee decision.
Right, and what we did was remove it from you taking something, $2, I believe it was, for everybody walking in the gate, which is what generates our ability to fund, maintain, produce the next year's fair, and made it specific to a grandstand once there was a new grandstand.
So I'm having a fair experience. I'm over in the fairgrounds, I'm over in the horse barn, I'm wandering around, then I'm gonna go over to the horse bowl. So is there somebody standing there asking me for $1?
We would have to.
And,
So we would be paying those people an hourly wage as well.
right.
So,
Yep. And that, like I said, historically, that's what was done. What Ted said did away with it. We just put an extra dollar or whatever it was on the fee to get in the gate, eliminated expenses from us. We have to estimate then how many people come to those grandstand events when we're projecting and doing things, but it eliminated the expense of us doing that. But in the original MOU that came to us, just what we said, and this tied it back to the grandstand, which is what is the issue.
So why not just add rather than the $2 to every head that walks in the door, a smaller amount, once the grandstand is built?
Well, the fair board though is committed money to a portion of the cost of a new grandstand.
Right.
So in essence, then you're saying, well, we want the Fair Association to commit to this, but we're also going to want the people of the county to commit to this. I mean, that's kind of like,
Well, it is the taxpayer dollars funding.
It's a user fee.
well, I
So if I
understand.
don't go to the fair, I don't pay as much, but I mean, everybody that goes to. the
Right,
fair-
but the
but
fair-
not
the-
everybody that goes
50
to the
cents.
fair sits in the grandstand either.
Right,
Right, but so you'd rather pay people and incur that additional cost in order to collect an amount at the grandstand so that you can say the county is the bad boy, rather than add a small amount on the gate fee, which is what you did previously when you wanted to make things fair.
No, let's just take the cost of collection out of the fee. Solved.
You don't think we are gonna get a lot of backlash from these people? You know, we up our prices based on the new grandstand. Why I'm not going there? You don't think that we're gonna get
I
flat
don't
from
think with
them?
the inflation, if your price for entry goes to $1,
Oh,
once it's
well,
with the
yeah,
cost of
they
inflation.
complain now.
How much is it right now?
six.
it-
6 and 8, it's $8.
$8 a day. And you would, the people that complain, it's unbelievable. We're too high.
All right, we'll caucus on that, I guess.
Just to be clear though, the way I have written is, this fee shall be collected by the Fair Society. It says, county may charge a user fee from any person attending event at the grandstand facility. This fee shall be collected by the Fair Society and will be turned over to the Polk County less the cost of its collection.
We're
Put
getting
a-
more and more cumbersome.
Put a sunset on it, because it might be paid for in 2 years.
There
Everybody
you
wants to
go.
go there.
I like that
I
thinking.
I
like
think the
that
only
thinking.
thing I would question is, you know, we pay sales tax. Is this something we would have to pay sales tax on?
We'd have to look that up.
mean, when you go downtown St. Croix Falls and you walk into a hotel, there's not a little person there with their little belt saying, oh, well, the city's got a user fee right now. And the recreational amount is $5, so pony up.
Yeah, because it's bad for business.
But the state fair is that way.
But this is,
State fair
you're
goes
making us
everything
impose
to
a
the
fee,
cost.
you know?
All the state fairs are that way. You have different things that you gotta pay to get into.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to clean it up a little bit. I don't mind raising, I mean, prices are going up, I mean, $6, $8. It seems like it's a reasonable amount for somebody to pay $6.50 or.
It has to be an even number, just a heads up.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
Change is a
Yeah.
nightmare at
Yeah,
gates.
yeah.
Do people pay with credit cards or debit cards to get into the fair? Or is it just cash?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are exploring that because historically, the people involved didn't want to do that. But we are with this new individual and this group is exploring it for the 2023 fair.
I'm just thinking with like technology. I bet you in 5 years, people are gonna buy their fair ticket online, and if they want to add the grandstand booster, you know, whatever, then they just scan when they walk in.
And that
No.
is certainly something that we can move forward to because we have talked about e-ticketing now this
Mhm.
year moving forward.
That's kind of, you know, to go to any other big event. It's even Apple Pay, whatever.
And yeah, the current treasurer has prior experience with that.
All right. Polk County is responsible for special assessments. Insurance, firstly, will maintain liability insurance, naming the county as an additional insured. Maintain workers' comp insurance, name use of insured. Require a certificate of insurance on liability coverage for any third-party use of the fairgrounds. Sorry, insurance.
Under insurance number 3, he just
Three.
read.
So that'd be like if you have like the tractor pull come in, you have them provide you their liability insurance.
They do, or
Weddings.
weddings,
event.
though any event like that. Currently, what the county is requesting is $1 million liability coverage. They either get that through their own, like homeowners insurance, or they purchase that coverage through the fair's insurance company. So that every person who comes in, feed my starving children, weddings, graduations, they provide a certificate of liability to us.
Okay. County shall request this insurance certificate to be provided. So so all the stuff that we have to provide you with, like the insurance certificates and the financials, you have to like just ask us like once a year and so kind of remind us. Others. Once that letter is received, the first site shall have 60 days to comply with the letter and send to the, do you want to send to 2 people? I mean, I think it should really just be 1 person.
Well, and because we send things and then they don't know where it is, so we need from you your chain of command, who it goes to and how it's disseminated out.
Probably the director of public works. I mean,
You can always send it to me.
Okay,
I've never received anything from you, so.
we must have because
Our last audit was handed to you across the table at a meeting from Tracy LeBlanc. And so I know that you had received it, but then conveniently, nobody had received it.
so
So
it-
that's
sorry.
what we're trying to just clean up.
And then, I'm sorry, and just what she said, it was given to some administrative level. And then it was said that they didn't have it. And then I later found it, all of our financials were attached to the general government informational packet for the August meeting. So somehow somebody had it. And it was given to you. But so if we could have a chain of command or whom we give it to, then where does it go so that it doesn't come back and say, you never gave it to us when it had been. And
It should list the county administrator. I mean, if it's just an email that's sending this with attachments, it should go to the administrator, the general government director, and the public works director.
Why are we
And on
sending,
the flip side of that, then where shall the county send the letter? What's your chain of command, and who receives it and who's responsible for sending it?
just addresses in Fair Society?
Just PO Box 1 and
You know, I don't know what the address is, but yeah.
well, the world's operating by email. It could come, requests could come to Buildings and Grounds, Vice President, President, Secretary, Treasurer. And
what would you
then,
like? I mean, you're requesting the same thing from us. I'm just asking.
I
the same
sent you
question
an
back.
email in regards to that when you first started working with Chad. So preferably, I would like everything to go through Vice President.
Here's the thing, situation like this, in these kinds of agreements, it's fairly common practice to just say any notice or correspondence that needs to be sent to either party must be sent to the following address. And then you just put 2 addresses in for whoever it happens to be. And for the Fair Society, it'll probably be like, I assume you guys have like a Fair Society email address,
yes,
right? We'll just put that in there. We'll put in the Fair Society's address it to the Fair Society. For the
But-
county, I'm proposing to put in the Public Works Director as the point of contact.
if they do, and then we have a Vice President of Buildings and Grounds, that should be the point of contact for things going back and forth.
Okay,
And then information gets disseminated out.
all right. So,
See, Mo and I are trying to set this up so that it's between our offices, because we're about to be done with all of this, and we're gonna go get a beer and a fishing boat, and we're not coming back.
okay, so I'm gonna say all notices and correspondence to be sent under this agreement shall be sent to the following addresses
And we'll plug those in later.
for the county, and then we'll put it in, whatever, blah, 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 for the Fair Society, and again, just put it in. Whatever it happens to be. Okay. Next item. Failure of the Fair Society and or the county to comply with the requirements of this agreement will constitute a breach of the agreement. The fairgrounds shall not be sold, transferred, conveyed, or alienated in any way without the consent of both the Fair Society and the county. Okay,
We'll debate that one, I guess. That's a new one. We haven't really talked about it. We'll caucus on it.
You say no payments contemplated in this agreement impact any promises made by either party that exist at the time the agreement is executed. I don't understand what that means. Does that mean the grandstand?
It's my opinion, the grandstand's a totally different agreement that we will work on after this. MOU.
So that, I mean, that was in the original. So what does it mean then? Because I will say that in August of 2020, we interpreted that to mean the grandstand resolution that had taken place in 2016. And that at this point has never been clarified to us exactly what that means.
Well, I mean, yes, it would apply to any, although now your request on the grandstand has changed, but at that time, and I guess still, you talked about the money that you're putting forward to the grandstand. That's an agreement outside of this agreement. So those agreements are negotiated separately and this doesn't impact any of those.
I mean, I think then we need to have language like that in the original MOU that says that Polk County has an obligation to provide a grandstand. Current MOU says Polk County will provide fairground facilities, including buildings, grounds, grandstand, fences, walkways, and roads. And so we need that same language so that there's no squirreling out of it afterwards to say like, oh, well, you know, we're good now that we've got this new MOU, now we start a negotiation on building this grandstand. The grandstand currently Polk County has an obligation to provide a grandstand that is adequate for the Polk County Fair Society's needs to conduct the Polk County Fair. And that, we need to have similar language in this MOU.
Well, if we add that, then I'm gonna say we add the 400 and whatever $1,000 that you had already put down. And then we've got that discussion that's gonna be had about the user fee or entrance fee.
Our original 2016,
Are you denying that currently have that obligation?
I'm not saying that we have a current obligation.
You do have a current obligation. You have a resolution that's approved it.
It's arguable.
so are you referring to the original MOU that's in place right now or the 2016 resolution?
Right,
She's
there's
talking about the
the
fact that
resolution and the promise that was made from the Fair Society to contribute whatever, and I don't recall the dollar amount or what that fund looks like today.
she's talking about, remember in December, we mentioned that you earmarked funds for.
Yep,
to help
we
out.
did, and they're there. The funds are there earmarked. So in essence, I guess I'm not, because just what Rory said, that in the original MOU, it says the county's responsible for grandstand and other facilities at the fairgrounds. So that's what's being called into question, what we've been operating under since the Fair Society gave the land to the county? Or are we just referring to the agreement that was made by the county and by the Fair Society in 2016?
I'm talking about, if we're talking about putting language regarding the grandstand agreement into the MOU, which is what I think Rory's asking for, if that's what we're doing, then we've got to say exactly what that dollar amount is that the Fair Society is putting in. Where, you know, I mean, that's the amount of money that the county already put into the research and development and design of the other grandstand you no longer want. Is that going to be covered by the Fair Society? That lost money that the county's already incurred, all of those things. So if you want to talk about that, we'll be here the rest of the day.
Yeah, but
What I'm saying,
Or
if
we can say-
we're not going to address that conversation and the construction of the new grandstand and the cost of all that, then fine, we can set that to one side and come back to it later. But then this MOU needs to make clear, using precisely the same language as the last MOU,
No,
that this is your problem.
unless they agree, that's an absolute non-starter.
Right, this is what it says. Polk County will provide fairground facilities, including buildings, grounds, grandstand, fences, walkways, and roads that are adequate for the Polk County Fair Society's needs to conduct the Polk County Fair as herein provided. That's your obligation right now. What you're saying is
You're saying you want to add language now to this MOU that mirrors the pre-existing MOU and take away any argument that the county has that you are going to put that 400 whatever $1,000 down for the cost of the grandstand. That's what you're saying, putting that language into this MOU would do that. There would be no, then, because we just bargained for,
No.
you guys no longer having to. put
I
that money in.
believe-
you're gonna have to take something of a leap of faith here, but like they've already earmarked the $400,000 with the understanding that they didn't have to. They're like, right now, they have no obligation to pay for any of the grandstand, but still they salted it away over the last, probably 10, 15 years in expectation that they were going to spend it.
Which is why the language about nothing in here is impacting any agreements that are outside of the scope of the agreement. Why the grandstand negotiation is separate from, or we can add it to, and that might be the most
No, because-
effective use of.
If you want to look at it from my point of view or our point of view, if we take this language out and there's no longer an obligation on Polk County to build a grandstand, and we execute a new MOU that has no obligation on Polk County to build a grandstand, then what's to prevent you from just turning around and saying, okay, let's have this grandstand discussion. Oh, and bear in mind, we don't have to build one at all. We could just say no.
So how about we put language in here that says the Fair Board and the counties shall continue to negotiate in good faith regarding the construction of the grandstand.
I'm happy to say that, so long as it's, we still have this language that it's you have to provide fairground facilities. And then we will undertake to continue to negotiate in good faith.
Because we did in good faith allocate us trying to come up with 400,000, which we are still working toward. Even though the original MOU says that it's the county's responsibility. So that was a good faith gesture on our part back in 2016. We're gonna help. And 400,000 in 2016 would have gone a lot further toward it than it does now. But we made a good faith effort. And we have been putting money aside to raise the 400,000.
So I thought you said you had the 400,000. Now you said we're working on it. That's different.
We haven't. There's money there. It's been allocated. We've been putting money into CDs every year. If you go back and look at it, that was over a 5-year period, I believe. I don't have the 2016 resolution in front of me, but that our total give at the time it's built would be $400,000.
And that was not part of your resolution that came through the county board in 2016. That resolution.
2019. Are you talking about the 2019?
2016 was when the resolution was done.
For
I
building a
believe.
new grandstand. It was 1.3 million or something.
I
But
thought it was 2019. I don't know, maybe.
well, 2019 or 2016, whatever. But in that resolution, it was only earmarked 1.2 or 1.3 million. The discussion, the negotiations came after that.
No, it's right in the resolution. Let me pull it up right now.
And it might not be, when I said 16, was it the fall of 16? Was it the fall of 17?
Fall of 18.
18?
That'd be 18 into 19.
So
16,
it
I
was
would not-
condemned at the end of the 16 fair, yeah. and-
16, I would not, or 16, I would not have been
Yep.
involved with it.
So it was 2018. I'm sorry,
It'd
I'm
been the
wrong.
fall of 18.
It was October of 2018.
'84, 18. Our amount was not to exceed 1.3 million.
Discuss.
I am just modifying number 8 under miscellaneous to say, following execution and recording of this agreement, the parties shall continue to negotiate in good faith about the rebuilding of the grandstand at the fairgrounds. I want to include language basically mirroring what the current MOU says. So Polk County will provide fairground facilities, including buildings, grounds, grandstand, fence, walkways, and roads that are adequate for the Polk County Fair Society's needs to conduct the Polk County Fair as herein provided. We probably won't include the last part.
So I think we should take a break and then go into closed session. We can show you where you guys can have a private meeting place.
Okay, that's good.
I do need to take like a 5-minute break, Mr. Chair.
So we need to move into a closed session.
Yeah, maybe just take a quick recess.
So then where do you want us to go when you're in closed session here?
Oh,
Follow that
They're gonna
guy
show us.
there.
They got a room for somewhere.
Follow that guy.
It's 84. 3,000 per se. That 1.3 million was for that big one.
All right, we're looking for a motion. We're taking a caucus with the Fair Society and we're gonna go into a closed session. So move. Second. Roll call vote.
Russ Arcan,
Yes.
Kim McConnell.
Yes.
Steve Wornall,
Yes.
Amy Middleton.
Yes.
Jay Luke.
Yes.
We're in closed session and you'll know who's in the closed session.
Well, at least we can have.
All right,
the
we're
same-
back in open session. And we're gonna have the Fair Society come back in here.
I can't see that.
We have Judy, Brandage, and Justin.
I'm guessing that's Justin. That'd probably be Justin.
And then Joe.
You hit it harder on the head than any of it.
Session.
I know, I don't want to say it too loud. I didn't, yeah. I thought you'd say we're gonna take a break, but that's all right.
Well, we got a couple more items we gotta deal with here too.
Oh, yeah.
So Malia, does this committee set the mileage reimbursement for standing committees?
Well, I guess I don't know how that got on, where that started from. Who put it on the agenda?
What? The mileage reimbursement for standing committees.
It came through a question on whether or not a supervisor can travel with another supervisor and they
Oh,
both charge mileage. I guess is basically what I understand. As,
Oh, so not the.
No.
And that's-
It'd be like trying to charge mileage if you Skyped into the meeting.
well, I guess that's
Yeah, if I
it's
went, yeah.
evident and obvious, but we've got to determine some standard in writing apparently to
Okay, well,
indicate what it is.
we'll get to that.
Okay, that's- I
But
never
we do have a
thought of
couple
that
more
one.
items to.
Yeah, I see that.
All right, we're back in open session. I guess Steve will kind of let you know where. the meeting's at.
The committee feels that, we need the audit sent to us, so we're able to review that as soon as possible. In December, we thought we had a tentative agreement. Really, we sat across the table, we changed verbiage in the document. They all felt good about walking out of there. I felt good that day. I thought we got a lot done. But now we're going through the same document. We're trying to put in changes, type in changes as we're going. And we really felt that the December agreement, setting the grandstand aside, was all done in good faith on both sides. So we feel like we are to have another meeting, look at what changes you proposed. The general feeling amongst the committee that you're not really interested in an MOU at all. That you're more interested in getting the fairgrounds back and not having an MOU with the county. So, you know, that's just conversation that went around the table in closed session, so. Saying that, I guess we just wait for the financials, set another meeting up. Look at the changes that Rory has installed, see if it's something we can put into this original December document. And go from there. There was also conversation around the table that said, well, you know, if we can agree like we did in December, you know, we could do a 1-year MOU and put this thing aside and continue to negotiate the grandstand and the MOU from that point. That would put you in a situation where you wouldn't have to pay your attorney to keep coming to more or less confuse us, because we're confused. I mean, we had printing documents coming back and forth. We didn't know which one we were working off anymore. You know, that's the harsh reality on our side. We're confused now. We don't really know where we're at, when we left the December meeting, we thought everything was going well. So that's where we're at this point.
What has happened with the grandstand since the last meeting in December?
I'll let Mo handle that one.
You're gonna talk to Cedar, right?
I did, yep. I
And
just got a ballpark figure on, budgetary figure on what it would cost.
so what's the holdup? In getting the grandstand built?
Currently, that's what my direction was, to get an estimate of what it's gonna cost, to put in the same footprint.
And what was,
My direction was not given to design nor start construction on the grandstand.
and what was the estimate that they gave you?
750 to 850.
750 to 850.
Yes,
What does that mean?
750,000 to 850,000.
To build the grandstand in the old location?
Correct.
And so if we were going to do that, the next step is to have some engineering site plan drawn up by Cedar for that old location, for the old footprint.
Mhm.
And then contacting contractors and putting in an RFP and just building it.
Putting out for bids, yes.
And we have a resolution that authorizes up to 1.73 million for the construction of the grandstand, right?
Not this grandstand, no.
Okay.
That was for a 3,000 square foot grandstand. No,
So why?
I don't have direction from my committee nor my administrator to start that process.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, fair enough. I'm not trying to take your deposition here, but my point is that I don't understand. If we want to do, you want to do a show of good faith, I think move into the next stage of the construction of the grandstand. Like, get the engineering site plan from Cedar, and then once that's done, put it out for bid and then build the grandstand. I mean, why does any of that have to wait on this?
Because we already put tens of thousands, $100,000, $90,000 in to building the other grandstand that your clients wanted in the other spot that was much larger. And all of that money has been wasted. So unless we have a solid agreement where the county feels like the fair is being transparent and open financially, and that there's going to be a long-term relationship, there's no way they're going to invest that kind of money.
They have to.
That's an argument for a later date.
This isn't like, you can't hold hostage grandstand.
That
For
is
this
an argument
MOU.
for a later date.
It's not an argument. It's absolutely undeniable that this MOU requires you to build a grandstand.
Your colleague revoked that MOU, noticed of breach and said, we're done, and demanded funds. If you think those funds are somehow doing oboe to your client, that's an argument for another day.
So that you're just not gonna do anything on the construction of this new grandstand.
That's up to the county board if they wanted to do that. But imagine being, and you can ask them if they're going to bring a resolution forward. They could ask my advice. But they've already spent $90,000 doing something that your client now says they do not want.
So I don't want to get into the weeds on the $90,000, but my understanding from speaking to my clients is that that was in large measure driven by former members of a previous composition of this county, of the county board. It wasn't entirely driven by my client. It was actually largely due to former members of the previous county board who were like, shoot the moon and get all this, you know.
Absolutely not. That is a lie that your clients have told you.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
provide the email proof of that.
all right, didn't do. I'd love to see that. In any event, you're like, so because that previous grandstand project fell through, you're now saying that you're not going to construct this existing grandstand that you clearly have a legal obligation to build. I mean,
Make sure that this county board is comfortable with your client's financial situation. I believe there is political will to build the grandstand. I believe that the county board wants the fair to succeed, absolutely. But they're not going to start that project when all of this is in the weeds, when we have several letters basically sending us a notice of claim. That doesn't make sense. So if we can get to an agreement where everybody's working towards the same goal, because I do believe there's a lot of support for the fair on the county board and the grandstand.
So you're referencing what Max sent to you?
Yes, okay.
I mean, you say, well, we're confused. We feel like, you know, you guys don't even really want an MOU and you just want the fairgrounds back. And firstly, I'm like, I think I've been fairly transparent. Like, I don't think I've been, you know, coy about the fact that I think that's the best solution. I obviously do. But if we're going to have an MOU, it doesn't have to be renegotiated. I mean, what's to stop us just saying, you know what, scrap it. We're just going to continue under the terms of the old MOU. You need to build a grandstand.
Go make that argument.
Well, in what sense? I mean, how are you not instructing the public works director to like comply with your legal obligations to build a new grandstand?
Whether they have a legal obligation is not advice they're going to take from you. That is an argument for another day.
I think it would go a hell of a long way. If you're talking about good faith, you go a hell of a long way to say, yeah, this has been going on now since 2018. So 5 years that since this grandstand was condemned by your insurance company, and then we've been basically using bleachers ever since. I think it'd go a long way to say, you know what, go ahead, contact Cedar Court, get the engineering done, and then let's get this thing out for bid. We could build this new grandstand. Like, why does that have to wait? Does anyone want to answer that? Like, does it have to wait?
She did answer you. We don't know where we're at. She answered your question.
You
You
want us,
don't know where you're at, you don't know where we're at, nobody knows where anything's at. That's
Yeah.
why we're holding it up.
we do know where we're at. We have an
No,
MOU
we
in
don't
place.
know where you're at.
No, what you want is you want to have a new MOU that removes your obligation to construct the grandstand and then enter into negotiations for the construction of the new grandstand. Because right now, my client's trump card, insofar as it has one, is to say, well, you have to build a grandstand. So let's talk about building the grandstand. What you're saying is what the proposal has been, we're going to remove the language that requires the county to build a grandstand. And then don't worry, trust us. We will then have a conversation about constructing the grandstand. And we definitely won't rug pull. Like, we definitely won't say, once our legal obligation to build it has been removed, we definitely won't say, you know what, forget it. It's too expensive, or it's too much, or you're too difficult to deal with. And so we just have to take like your word for it that don't worry, we'll definitely build a grandstand. Even though right now, with the legal obligation to do it, you're still not doing it.
Again, they're not gonna take their legal advice from whether there is now a current legal obligation to build a grandstand. I'm telling you that there is political will to build the grandstand, regardless of whether there is a legal obligation.
Okay,
But they are not comfortable with the lack of transparency with financials. They are not comfortable with having what they thought was a tentative agreement in December and coming back and basically relitigating things we thought were agreed upon before. They feel like there's probably something being hidden.
okay.
And so there's a lack of trust there. So let's get those audited reports, get the pre-audited reports, the audited reports, whatever you have. I mean, we heard today that there's incorrect numbers in the report, so that's why it's not here when it was promised to be here today. So get that to us. And who knows, maybe one of them might sponsor a resolution to move forward on the construction of the grandstand. That's a political question, whether they do that or not. But this group as a whole is not comfortable.
So the most current financial information was part of the packet that got emailed to Steve. So if he shared that, that is everything. That is the most current financial information that you have. And if you want to be handed a document that came from Carlson SV that contains some errors, we can certainly do that.
I don't
You know, my concern is this, is that you're saying there's a lack of transparency, but speaking frankly, it seems like there's just a lack of coordination on your side. Like, we sent you this MOU, and then we had the meeting in December, and apparently nobody had got it. And you went back to your emails, and nobody could find it, but yet we were like, we know we sent it to you. And then paperwork was given to the county administrator, like physically put in his hand, and then he says, I never got it. And then, but somehow it appears in the board packet, you know, it's like, you guys need to get your own house in order before you say, hey, you know, there's a lack of transparency on our behalf. Like, we provide.
We have public records. If you want to check our email records for anything, you can do a public records request and see what your clients sent to anybody with a Polk County email address regarding the fair. So that is something you can have access to. To say that we're lying about saying we didn't receive something when it's
I
something.
didn't say you were
we
lying. I
clearly-
never for an instant said you're lying.
So
I said you're not coordinating, but I'm not accusing you of dishonesty.
we can hand you an audit that contains some inaccurate information that we're trying to remedy. But the most current information was emailed out in the packet right before the February board meeting, that financial.
You said it went to Steve?
It didn't go to the county.
No, it went to the liaison.
It went to
It
Steve.
always goes to the liaison.
County board member. That is a liaison to the Fair Society.
Yep.
He's not the conduit for information. He's to bring things back to the board.
Who do you want
Want
us,
to bring back stuff to staff to do and stuff.
who do you
That's why
want?
staff requests it and the administrator requests information.
Okay.
Give me the email right now that you want me to send it to.
I would say Don
Okay, look, give it to me. I'll type it in.
and Vince. What I'll do is I'll email you and I'll copy them so you'll have all three of their emails. And you can always send it to council.
I mean, for the record, you know, you talk about, oh, we thought we had an agreement in December in principle. What was that agreement that you thought we had? What was the agreement?
Well,
We have to
on the
discuss it.
top, it says first draft submitted by Polk County Fair Society to us. So then we sat in the December meeting, we went paragraph by paragraph.
That's not the one that I sent you in December. The one I sent you in December was titled Agreement between Polk County and Polk County Fair Society. Looked like this. It's a different document entirely. And then it was like rejected. You said, no, it went too far. We were gonna like doctor up the previous draft.
And that's what you did. You doctored up the
Yeah,
previous
but we-
draft.
But you can't say there was an agreement because it was,
It was a tentative. agreement.
Tentative.
yeah, but I said at the time, this is a mistake. We were like, we'll come back and we'll do it. I was like, this is gonna end in tears because trying to do this by committee is not gonna work out.
You sat in the meeting.
Yeah, I said that at the meeting.
Yeah, well,
Well, it's on video. We can review the video to see whether what Steve and I drafted was consistent with what both sides apparently had a tentative agreement about. Because that's what we literally listened to the audio again, took his notes and my notes and went through and and wrote down the exact changes that everybody agreed on. We didn't add anything. We didn't take away anything that you guys didn't agree to take away. It was 100% what was talked about in the meeting that everyone had a consensus on.
And to me, I don't think we did anything other than change a little verbiage and clarifying the use and management of the fairgrounds, with the exception of number 4 under miscellaneous, where that got left up for interpretation.
You can watch the video. You can watch the video.
Well, look, I don't know that we ever really stumbled over the sticking point, which appears to me to be like the question of whether or not this newest MOU is going to contain the same language as the existing one that obligates the county to provide for fairground facilities, including the grandstand. Because this MOU as written does not contain that language.
Can I make a political comment about that? And that is, we have to go to our board, fellow board members to get a vote. You have a lot of support on the board. The fair is loved, near and dear to everybody on the board. But when we go to the full board and ask them to vote on this old resolution of supporting the, or whatever, if it's a MOU that says we're gonna do the 1.3 on the previously proposed 300 seat grandstand, and we don't have exactly there's some questions about the funding, we're not gonna get in our vote. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to count votes, and I'm trying to figure out what is the package that we present to the full board that's the most concise, with dates on the documents and arguable, and so that they organize the tidy thing, and then we can get the votes, because we will be the advocates for the fair, but I can't do it with right now.
Right, okay, fair
A
enough.
little bit like this, and I mean, you have advocates, so we just need to kind of put our package together, get our MOU, whatever, done, so we can say we did these things, and now it's still.
Okay, well
So
then,
help us present a package to them that we can get votes with.
okay, well then I think we need to,
We're not, this isn't working.
do we then need to pick up this conversation about construction of the grandstand? Like just have the conversation so that there's a global resolution, that there's like, there is an agreement, there's two agreements, right? There's a new MOU and there is an agreement between the county and the Fair Society for the construction of this grandstand, including, and it spells out black and white that there's going to be a contribution from the society, how much the county is going to pick up as the remainder, and addressing this user fee.
So are you asking for a new resolution on the grandstand, you think?
Well, I don't know that I'm asking for it so much as I'm saying that might solve the problem that you're identifying. That you can go to the board and say, here, we figured it out. Here's a solution. It solves everything. It solves the MOU issue. It solves the problem with the grandstand. It just takes care of everything.
But I would have to ask council if we have to go back to the, I mean, I don't know that we can go into, put language into an MOU based on that old resolution.
So, but
Because the old resolution said 3,000 feet, 1.3 million, 3,000 seat. So it's almost like there's two things that need to happen. A new resolution on the grandstand, an MOU needs to come before that.
So-
But then it gets money out.
you're like two documents, because in my mind, the current MOU, which as Roy says, spells out that the county is supposed to provide a grandstand. That's what we're currently operating under. And we have the new one that we made progress on, everything except for number 4 under miscellaneous was never even clarified in December, which in our mind dealt with the grandstand. As a group, even the Fair Board representing the Fair Society, we'd be negligent to sign off on something new that didn't address the grandstand when it does in here. I mean, we're like, we'd be negligent. We would have given that all away if we jumped on board with this new MOU that doesn't address the grandstand?
But in my mind, I'm trying to figure this out. I mean, there was the old 3,000 seat MOU grandstand proposal, then there was the divorce, I'll call it, then it goes away. And now we have a shrunk, what is it, 1,500 seat grandstand. So that's a whole new landscape. The board really needs to look at that again and say, yep, we like that idea.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to say is to move this process along, let's do the MOU. And then say, we'll go to the grandstand, go back to the grandstand, but you don't want to do that. So we're.
I'm happy to do that, so long as the MOU has the same language as the existing, that new MOU has the same language, so that,
That MOU said the county is, well, I don't have it in front of me, but it said we are responsible for doing a grandstand at the tune of 1.3 million.
no,
No,
that's the
that's a
resolution.
resolution.
That's the resolution.
I know it's resolution, so, okay,
The MOU says, the existing MOU says this, is that,
which one am I looking at?
The original
the
one.
one that's like recorded at the county right now, the actual,
Yeah, I don't have that.
it says, Polk County will provide fairground facilities, including a grandstand, that are adequate for the Polk County Society's needs. That's what it currently says. That's the document from 1974. That's recorded at the county.
So. Yeah, thank you.
What I'm saying is this document from 1974 would be replaced by this new MOU that we're negotiating. So and then we record this new MOU at the county. If that new MOU doesn't contain that same language, then I am in a much weaker bargaining position than, well, but the society is currently, because the county then no longer has an obligation to build a grandstand for the
I hear what you're saying, and I'm in a pickle because we want to be able to go to get the next resolution passed by saying, okay, the Fair Board gave us, we have an MOU with them, we're working together really great, here's the financials. And now here's a resolution that says grandstand X, Y, and Z, will you vote for it? So it's like this funny little chicken in the egg, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So, like, the building blocks are,
But could it be that the agreement, that there's the resolution at county board level looks like this? We hereby resolve that we're approving this new MOU that's been since negotiated. We're entering into an agreement with a separate agreement, wholly separate agreement with the society that they agreed to contribute up to $400,000 toward the construction of a new grandstand and impose a user fee in such and such a way for that new grandstand. And we're modifying the previous resolution from 2018 to accommodate the sort of changed environment. And then it's all done at one time.
maybe.
And then you can go task Mo with talking to Cedar Corps, getting the engineering done, and you know you're at least getting 400,000 contributed. And you're going to be allowed, unlike, I don't, we can't predict necessarily the exact cost of the grandstand, but you can move in that direction. I mean, you can,
But when the board votes on it, the MOU is done,
I would think so, yeah,
so we have our MOU agreement,
yeah.
and the language says, in the MOU, we will work on the grandstand.
Well, just, you have an obligation to provide facilities. Doesn't address any particular item, just says you have an obligation to provide facilities.
I don't know, we can agree to some, I mean, don't we have to agree to some, a number or something? I'm just trying to think.
Well, again, you couldn't agree. You'd have to take it to the full county board.
That's what I mean, I'm trying to figure out what we propose to the full board. Would we have to say, we're obligated to do the grandstand at a certain budget number? We have to put
We
that
can
in there?
include that.
And then
You could propose a resolution like that, for
For sure,
sure.
but I'm talking about the
Up
MOU.
to an amount. Oh, the
Right,
I'm
amount.
trying to be able, okay, the first foundation is we get an MOU built that says, says the grandstand is in there. We're committed to the grandstands, but do we have to put a dollar figure in there? To be negotiated later, can we say that?
Well, you could do that, or you could have some type of ceiling, but the other option, if it would make them more comfortable theoretically, is you could sponsor a resolution to work jointly with the fair for a grandstand, but make it and put a dollar amount in there or not. That's,
Included in the
but then
resolution.
say contingent on an MOU.
So we want the MOU, and I think we moved it forward in December, but we did not talk about this end part that brought forward the grandstand discussion. And do you understand what I mean is we would be negligent if we just walked away from this that has
I
language
understand
in
you would
it.
lose your argument. It's a weak argument.
So you're
But again,
saying,
he would say, I shouldn't be giving you legal advice.
so this, you're saying this isn't a legal document. It's a weak legal document.
I'm saying it's, you have an argument.
And at that point, that, like we've said, that's what we have. So if we, there needs to be some, that language needs to be moved over to the MOU. And I think that's all we were asking for 2 hours ago.
So I don't, because then you're gonna say, well, you just contractually agreed to paying the full price, and so we're not going to contribute any more money.
But we can have
No, that's
He
part of
just
the
said we
negotiation.
have
Enter into an agreement.
$400,000 to put toward it. We will have,
I mean, we will make, we could, I'm suggesting that we negotiate either today or at some future date, we negotiate an agreement. We can call it a partnership agreement for the construction of the grandstand. And we just, the language in the MOU would be broad, vague, non-specific. It would just say, as it currently does, Polk County will provide facilities. Could mean anything. We then enter into like a specific agreement, talking about a particular project, where we undertake to give you a specific amount of money and to collect a specific amount of money as a user fee and repay the county. And we make each of these two, like the execution of both of these two things contingent on the other. Then we have an agreement, you have an MOU, it's done, you know you're getting your money, and heck, we can give it to you.
Could we even say, grandstand's not contingent on the previous resolution, something like that? We put some resolution in there that says,
Well, this,
resolution, whatever is that.
that resolution again is,
I know, but we could put it to make it clear. That
if you want to draft a proposed resolution, I can work with you on that. Is that what you're asking? Or are
saying in
you?
the MOU language, I mean, I'm happy to help on it, but I think maybe Steve should do it, but I'm saying that if there's any language in an MOU regarding the grandstand, that in parentheses it says previous resolution stating the county board support for paying for this amount is null and void, whatever. The
That
number
was
is.
a resolution.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it is not an
That's-
MOU, so it's still.
I was
out.
getting confused with.
No, but you put it in the MOU.
No, I wouldn't refer to it.
No,
No,
I'm
No,
just saying,
No.
because you're worried that they're gonna say, if we have grants, the county's committed to the grandstand, that we've committed to it, that we've committed to it at a certain amount. They're saying there's a certain amount, you're saying no.
Well, I
So
mean, that's a.
We
really
can-
weak argument.
it can't be in the MOU, it's a separate
We
issue.
can't put it in MOU.
No,
But we
because then
can
once it's built,
pass
we're done.
this MOU, can incorporate an agreement with a grandstand in the same time through the county board without problem. I understand this. With all due respect to his opinion, I think he's wrong. And I go with the opinion that we have got from you in reference to the original MOU. However, ignoring that completely and the verbiage and the words that are indicated about the grandstand and incorporated in all the other things that we're offering. Yet in that MOU, the contention is whether it's viable or not viable. Immaterial of that, we can, if we have an agreement on the MOU that we came up in December, when we go to the county board and say, here's our MOU that we want with the Polk County Fair Society. And we agree in this, Malia can come up with the right resolution, but we agree to build and the grandstand for the amount that we agreed upon. And you can put in the money if you want. If you offer 400,000, if that's the final figure, and 758,000 is the final figure, everything would move forward. we can get the county board to agree to that, but try to explain to them some of the legal remedies would be very complicated. And except that they would probably agree to that if we spend another 4 or 5 hours with them. But I think we could get this accomplished, and I don't know that we're not gonna agree on anything anyway here and what we present forward, but I think we can work with our members of the county board to comply with this, get this MOU going. We can work with the resolution to get that grandstand built. We agreed to that some time ago, but not in this form.
Mhm.
That's the problem, and I think we can do it at the same time, provided we get the assurance that that we're going to be cooperating a hell of a lot better than we have been in the past, apparently. I haven't been personally involved, but except through the county board representation, but I think it can be done, but I think it'll be done through a resolution with a board member bringing it to the county board. It'll go, provided we get it's pretty much an agreement that we do want an audited financial indication of what you're at, where you're at. I don't know. I've never seen anything myself personally, but
Can I address, Chad just forwarded on 30 pages that our current treasurer went through. She spent hours going through and pulling all this information out. It's a profit and loss, she stated, right?
Have you sent to me?
We just sent it to Malia and to Mr. Nordby and to
well,
Mr.
then we're not
Netherland.
accomplishing a thing at this meeting and for our thing. We're not gonna look at a
No,
30-page.
no, but we did give it to them and we can hand you that other document as it is now if you would like.
Resolve anything now, except that we've got to understand or come to some conclusion of, get done with the meeting.
Here's,
Sorry. To some conclusion that we've got to trust each other to some degree, that we will accomplish what we're kind of indicating. And trust our ability to do that.
Can we get it down to one document, maybe get all the updates onto this one that we did in December? So that when we're talking, it's Article 2, Article 3 is maintenance repairs, 3.1, 2, whatever. I think we have to get it down to that, get all these changes into this document, so we know that because I think some of the things you're asking for are in this document.
okay, I agree with you. I
think they're in there, but I think we have to get down to, not walking in and getting 3 pages of stuff on a different format. Nobody knows where we're at. Page 4 miscellaneous.
Hey,
Miscellaneous is 6, 8, this. All the numbers are different. Everything's different. We got to get down to this document and work with this if we're going to get something done. We're sitting here for 3 hours. I've got 8 pages of the same thing that nothing lines up with the other. Half the things you asked for are in this document that we agreed on in December. So I think that's what we got to get out there and get down to this one.
Okay, I agree with you. We will get you the auditor's report. I'll forward these email or this financial information that I have to the appropriate parties. I'll get all of the edits to the MOU from today into one document, and I'll probably just go back and forth with Attorney Malone until it's at a form that we think is essentially final, and then we can just shred all the previous MOUs and just deal with one single document. Then the other thing I think needs to happen if we're going to have any likelihood of success in this is we need to talk about the disagreement, call it a partnership agreement that I think is necessary for the construction of the grandstand. So we can give you how much money do we actually have to give?
We have 400,000.
$400,000. That's our contribution. We can't control the cost. We can't give you more than that. You don't have more than that. And we can't control the cost of the grandstand, but it sounds like you're gonna need to kick in another $350,000 to $450,000 to get it over the line, which is obviously a hell of a lot more palatable to the county than 1.3 million, right? So that right there would be every reason in the world I think the county needs to vote for this resolution. The only sticking point that I see remaining is this user fee, this county user fee, both how much it would be and how it's to be collected. And I don't know that we've developed consensus on that. If we can develop consensus on that, then I can put together a partnership agreement that I'd send to Attorney Malone, along with the new MOU, along with all the financial statements. She and I can go back and forth, get on the same page, and then hopefully we can come back and do something productive the next time we meet. So that county user fee,
Yeah.
our proposal is that it would be charged by the county if the county chooses to charge it, and we will collect it and we will give it to the county, but it's going to be clear that it's a county levied fee and that it's going to be taken at the grandstand rather than at the gate. And if that's not acceptable to the county, then we should probably talk about that. Because that seems to me to be the sole remaining sticking point.
Well, I can say that the committee was offended by it. Laughing, smirking, you know. We were offended by it. I think the better way, please let me finish. The better way for this fee is just simply at the gate. Whatever we decide on, simply at the gate. I don't see paying people to take the fee and taking that out of the fee. And what are you gonna have in the end? It was offensive,
Sure,
okay?
I hear you. If it were to be taken at the gate, I'm not saying never, how much would it be? And would it stop once the county recouped its money?
It should have a sunset, yes.
Absolutely.
That should have a sunset.
So if it's, how much would, if it were then like, let's say you spent another $400,000 building the grandstand. Then once you recover that $400,000 in the county user fee, the fee would stop.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah.
And then how many people come a year? Let's say you got $1 a person.
Roughly 30-ish thousand in a good year.
So it's take 10 or 15 years to pay off the county user fee.
So then, I'm sorry if I was offensive, but that, like I said, I gave you our explanation of what originally came from Malia and back again. And we wanted, as Janice said, people don't like to have to pay more money at the gate. Are we then able, or would the county find that offensive if we addressed why we were, and this is all once there is a new grandstand there, if we have to increase the gate fee to offset that, can that be made known? Or does it just fall on us and we take all the heat of increasing fees again? Because it was not made to be, it was transparency on our part to let the people know why that fee would be charged. It wasn't meant to be offensive. It was meant to let people know why we would be charging that fee and what it was for.
I think, you know, if it was $1 at the gate and you don't raise it, you need to look at your finances and say, where would that situate us? You know, in your everyday operations would, if you took $1 out of your fee that's coming in the gate now, where would that put you financially? Would it make it feasible to keep with all the stuff you're doing at the fair or not feasible? You know, and again, looking at the finances.
And that's highly dependent on each fair, how successful each fair is, and we're at the mercy of weather. So we can project out somewhat conservatively. But then we're going to be giving you $400,000 too.
We're paying a loan that you didn't have to take out from interest in order to finance the construction of a grandstand.
Yeah, but
Is the grandstand used for any other events that, you know, like I seen the list of
We can
events,
make
these
it.
older ones?
So we could
Does
host,
it do other
Circus?
events?
Currently not
Is it
now.
used? Not
Not,
just the fair?
it could be.
not right now, because there's,
There's
don't
and
nothing
even
there.
in the years past, the amount of events that were held there was we've tried rodeos, we tried cross-country, we tried a lot of different things, and a lot of times they're not successful. So the likelihood of getting a lot of extra events during off times of the fair is, you know how it is, everybody's got other things to spend their money on.
Sure.
How about, I
I'm
have
just
a
wondering
problem-
if it gets used a lot or not. I mean, it's still gotta be maintained.
right,
Well, the
right.
extra events thing, sorry, to interrupt, is where we got sideways with the St. Croix Falls.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you gotta
because-
be careful with that.
They don't want a lot of extra events in there.
Right,
That is part of us trying to work with the city also.
How about in lieu of a user fee? Why don't we try to come up with some kind of agreement, and I hate to have this for the board, because I'm not on the board anymore, so that's something they'll have to talk about. But how about if we pay a flat fee every year of so much money?
So it's
Because-
just free loan.
Yeah, and what it, well,
But that,
I don't know, I'm not suggesting that if it's, say, another $500,000, that user fee has to pay for all of that 500,000. Because on my mind, some of that money is gonna have to be borne by the county, that is not gonna be totally paid back. I can't imagine why the county board would figure that because then I mean, it's like any other building, when you do work at the Golden Age, or you go and expecting that facility in their increasing their fees or whatever, has to pay back 100% of that loan. I assume that's not the way it is with most county buildings. I could be wrong, but I was on Land and Water for a while, and I know how it worked back then. Not 100% of the money that was appropriated by the county was always paid back by those departments. But if we could make a flat fee that we could somehow agree on, yeah, the fair board is gonna have to be obligated to that versus a user fee, because I lived through all the years of when you tried to get people to pay when they went into the grandstand, and it just, and the whole idea about having to up the when people come in, that's been one of the nice things about the fair. We've been able to keep it pretty reasonable to come into the fair. So if it could be a flat fee that somehow could be negotiated here, and I'm not talking 20, 30, 40,000 a year. I'm talking more like 10 or 15 or something that can be palatable for the fair board. That to me is gonna work out better in the long run than a user fee or interest-free loan or whatever you're gonna call it.
the problem with a user fee or an interest-free loan, really in any way other than at, other than at the entrance to the grandstand, is it smacks of, we could call it interest-free loan. You're like, okay, if we borrow the money and then repay you, and we spend $400,000, then who has just paid to build this grandstand? If I spend $400,000 of my money and I borrow $400,000 and I build it and then I repay back the $400,000, well, I've just paid for it then. The county hasn't paid for any of it.
We have a letter indicating the intent to repay, signed by several members.
That was the
The $400,000
Up
is what
to.
we committed. That's, the fair committed up to $400,000. The fair never, yeah, the fair never intended to pay for the whole thing because we're operating under this old MOU. We committed $400,000 in the beginning.
Because the other, I mean, just the practical thing about like repaying, if the county is budgeting whatever it budgets for maintenance and other things for the fair every year, and then you're repaying this other loan over here, I mean, it's just like, we're just circling money back and
Correct.
forth.
Correct. So, I mean, originally, back in 2018, that resolution, we committed we committed $400,000 that we would, after a period of X number of years, we would be able to generate that money and give to the county to go toward the purchase of a grandstand.
And you have that now.
We have the majority of it now. You would have to go back to that original, I believe we we had X number and we said each year we would increase
Hundred and
that.
25 up front. 275 would be paid $18,333 a year for 15 years, is what the letter says.
Yep. And that money is,
So that's still what's on the table. It's not 400,000
Total.
and county, you come in with the rest. It's county front the money except for this 125 and we'll repay you.
Just that.
I think that
No,
was the
it's
deal
just-
then, but since 2018, they've been
Building up that fund. so
Accruing,
like-
I think-
we've been putting that money away. So there's money there now. If we had to give you $400,000 now, we could give you $400,000. That would put us back to then you're putting us on a small conservative budget that we would have to operate under, that's completely, we're at the mercy of weather, we're at the mercy of
You
attendance.
wouldn't have like a cushion. is what
We
you're
have no
saying.
cushion. If that's what you're demanding to move this forward, we would have to go back and discuss that.
I'm not demanding anything. I think the county board, if this committee wanted to go to the county board and say, hey, you know, the cost is X, Y, Z, this is how much we would have to put in. I mean, it's something that they could then take and just see what the county board thinks. We'd have to
Yeah.
have a closed session on it.
I mean, my proposal would be that just scrap the user fee, because it's not helping, and rather than talking about the means by which it gets paid back, to me, it seems like the only palatable way that it would be repaid by the society is if it is directly leveled by the county against people using the grandstand, because if it comes out of our operations, then we're just repaying the loan, in which case we're just paying for the entire grandstand. We can pay up to $400,000. If you scrap the user fee, you bear the rest of the cost on the county dime, it's $450,000. It's not a small amount of money, but it's a hell of a lot less than 1.3 million.
So what you're saying is you could just say give 200,000 or 250,000 upfront.
That money is in the grandstand fund right now.
I know what's in your account. You're saying you could give that up front, and then you could go back to the payment schedule that you talked about in there to make up the 400.
Right.
So
I
for
think-
150,000 for 10 years, you'd have your, whatever it was, 18,000,
18 or whatever, yeah.
15,000 something.
But they could change that to
To-
less.
So 10 years,
Yeah, I think that is certainly a discussion point, because we're in good faith. We are not here to make fun of we are here in good faith and we are being as transparent as we can. We are, we just sent you everything now. So we're not hiding anything. We want to have a grandstand built, but when the user fee was thrown out there in the beginning, it was, what we put in here was only to address so that people knew what they were paying for. So that they knew that that money wasn't coming into our pocket, that it was going back to the county to help pay for that grandstand. That's why that was put in there the way, and if you interpreted it as disrespectful, I'm very sorry, but we're trying to be transparent with the people who walk through the gate and give them an idea of how we're operating. So they're just like, oh my goodness, the fair is increasing prices again and again and again. We wanted to let them know what it was for. In good faith, we have money set aside. We've been continuing to set it aside since 2018. If you need some, we can move that up front and we can renegotiate that.
well, I think this December document needs to be crispened up. And
It
then
does.
the next time we meet, we can make sure that this is what we agreed to tentatively. Not saying we gotta sign
So-
on the line. If
So.
we can get that done, then we start talking about the other.
So what we talked about before we got to the end, when the grandstand language got thrown in, were there significant issues that you caucused about? That we proposed in the beginning? From what was December, to what we just talked about now?
To be honest with you, we were so confused, it was getting. We
There
had
isn't very
them
many.
print out copies of what was said and back and forth, and we
So
just said,
most of what we discussed until we got to the end of the grandstand of what we talked about in December and what we talked about earlier today were palatable by everybody.
No, we have to review it. We have to have your language in there now.
Okay,
We don't have any tentative agreement whatsoever now, like we had, I thought, when we left December. So put your language in there, send it to us. We review it. We talk about it.
And he did, and that was handed out in closed session. But
Can you send me that repayment letter, please? You've copied
As
it.
long as I got it
oh,
right
yeah,
here.
I don't have my.
Oh, what fun with the papers. I can have someone here probably make me a copy. She'll make a copy.
Very nice.
Hate to lose the original.
So Rory and Leah sit down, talk.
Yeah, I'll take the labor.
So we got it in language that we understand.
And the committee wants it back in
This, in this format.
in the.
You remember this one? This is why I think it's a mess. Ah, I need to get it up anyway. This is the format that we started.
That's what you want.
That's the, you know, and I got some marks. That's
Okay.
from
Do
there.
you want me to take this?
Want to copy that?
Okay,
Well, if
yeah,
you don't have one,
I'll have this.
okay.
Some of this. What am I talking about format?
I would like, so I think, I don't know if they have it. But
Well,
I just
is it-
show it to them. This is the format I like, it.
Is it this one you're talking
No,
about?
the other format.
This one. So that when everybody asks a question, ownership, boom, here's the numbers, here's all the stuff that I'm looking at. Maintenance, repair, this is what we kind of went through in December. Right
no,
there.
yeah, this was,
It's not.
12/8/22, we went through it. There's the numbers right on, it. I sat right there.
this is what Rory gave you. So what he has here is your original document.
Yeah.
But formatted,
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's not a big, it's no
Yep.
problem.
so he
It's this
knows,
way.
but he knows,
Okay.
but I think this is what we need, the format for every, because you guys got different pages than we do,
So,
and different numbers. So you see what I'm looking at?
Right,
To get it
because-
straight?
But Carrie, it's so easy, okay? I
Okay.
totally understand what he's asking.
that's
just
what
gonna get-
yours
I'm gonna
is,
get what we're
and this
working
is
off
what
today,
Maria's was.
And I'm
Okay.
just gonna
That format.
put it into that format. And that will
Alright.
be, because he just likes the numbering, because it's
Alright.
like, it's got dual numbering, so you can say 12.2 as opposed to,
It's almost like an ordinance, so we can sit
What we
here
had
and
here.
pick out the numbers and argue over it that way.
Yep. All right.
okay, so I'll take the laboring or there's probably no point scheduling it until we're like close to final form. I'm gonna prepare an MOU, send you financials, put together a proposed, call it repayment agreement or partnership agreement or whatever I decide to caption it. And I'll send it to you, and then you and I go back and forth. If we think we're at the point where we're actually likely to make progress with an additional meeting, then we set up the meeting and hopefully we get this thing across the line.
Okay,
Okay?
so just, you'll have it to me before next meeting, so at least I can provide an update.
Sure, I can try and do that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've added it to my to-do list, so it's on there.
Let's put it a week before, okay?
Yeah. a week
Instead of
before, so
the
we
day
got
before.
walk in and get all these
Is that okay?
papers.
So like.
I'll do my best.
3
What,
weeks from
when's the
now?
meeting? It's the first Thursday in April, is that right?
Second.
Second.
Second Thursday in April. So that would be the 13th of April is your meeting, so you want it by the 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
and then I guess we'll probably be meeting again, but it may be maybe a couple of months before. It might be April, you never know. We'll see.
And as an aside, from the fair board standpoint, we will work toward what had been put in there was a business plan before the 2023 fair. And we will work toward that too.
And for the record, I won't be at that meeting.
Do your CIB at the same time.
Yeah,
As your business plan, technically incorporated.
So May would probably be a better meeting for us to get to this.
could these two still do stuff in April?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So that we have it moved along and then potentially we all met in May if you two were communicating in April?
And copy Joe in on it too. That way
Okay.
we'll keep each other on task.
All right,
And then just so the three of you received, or at least somebody can look to see that you received what Chad forwarded on to you from our treasurer.
yeah, I mean, look, I will coordinate that. So if things don't move along quickly enough, you know the way, okay? So if things haven't happened in the next few weeks, by the April meeting at least, call me and say, hey, how take it so long? Okay,
Okay, and so that there'll be a discussion, there'll be something in print that you two will have worked on by April.
no, I will have something to her by April. She'll then show it to the board. I imagine we'll then correspond like mid-April. She'll let me know what the board's reaction to it was, what our thoughts are. And then we probably would either set a special meeting or go to the main meeting, would be my guess.
Yeah, so if I have something and we've hammered something out, I can bring that to the April meeting. It wouldn't be a negotiating meeting. But then they could at least have that in their hands and then we could be prepared to discuss it in May.
All right. And I'll do my best to get it to you sooner rather than later, so we can go back and forth if necessary before the April meeting. As opposed to just like, having just a single version.
And so then if upon review in April, there's some sticking points, you would refer that back to him so he can communicate with us and we can build on that moving forward.
Correct. Or better yet, it's like, nope, it looks perfect. We have absolute consensus. Then I don't even know if we need to have another meeting, but we could certainly at that point and just move on. And that's probably what's going to happen.
The speed you're interested in, well then amongst you and your attorney, you should be talking about what an agreement to build a grandstand would look like.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, the added piece is, if we want to get this done and get it through county board, footings in this fall or whatever. I mean, we need to.
So that agreement would be worked on along with.
Correct. I'm going to send it to Malia at the same
Then we'll
time.
forward.
When we go to the county board, we have to have the MOU and we have to be in agreement to that part. Then if we have an agreement that we can take to the county board for the grandstand at the same time. Right? I mean,
That one hinge on
that way,
Right, and then
we can,
contingent on the-
I mean, I'll sponsor a resolution. I have no problem with that. But not until it's in order. I'm not gonna walk out of there with a black eye, so get our stuff in order. Get the resolution of the county board.
The estimate to build a grandstand, was that verbal or do you have something in writing?
You have an email on it.
Okay,
Send it to me, yeah.
very good.
Yeah, price of aluminum is really high right now. So, if you're gonna have aluminum benches, it's gonna be on the high end, right? Well, kind of. Or
Yeah,
if you decided if it had shade, you could use maybe plastic.
yeah, 52, I think 52 to 58,000 was engineering on it, but it'd be aluminum grandstands to weather the stuff
Okay,
with a roof.
It included a roof.
Yes.
But 52,000 to engineer.
the site plan.
Draw specs.
Okay. Okay, so agenda items, thanks for taking so much of your time, or letting us take so much of your time. And, Neil, if it's okay.
all right, we're gonna have a discussion on long-term priority setting. Process in the county.
Just very quickly, we've had the invite from me, and Bob. We have a process, much like we did 3 years ago. What I'd like to emphasize is that, just like 3 years ago, we still have our core functions and our responsibilities. So this is by no means taking away from those. Rather, the purpose was to say, do we, as a board, want to set a long-term goal that will really make a difference in the county beyond what we're doing now, or what we're doing now, can we do it better? So I would just use this time to say, please set up your time if you haven't yet. Call Tammy, set up, Bob is a process guru, and Bob has a process where you will meet with him 1-on-3. I think Don and someone from Extension will have questions, ask you, pick your brains, and then we'll put together kind of what we're finding out. And that's all it was, just an update on that.
No chatter among yourselves. That's what he told me.
Well, the process is very key.
That's why I
So
said.
we're
cut
just
him
trying to follow the process.
off. I walked right up to Tracy. Tracy goes, so what should we tell him? He goes, no chatter between. you."
All right, how about the mileage reimbursement for standing committees? What's the discussion?
Jay is not here, and I think Jay mentioned it, the key is clarification on what our policy is for mileage for reimbursement, because Tammy gets questions about who, or maybe the clerk gets questions, I don't know who gets reimbursed. We just wanted to clarify that it's for if you drive your car to a meeting, you get reimbursed. If you
Yeah.
don't, you don't. So
If
if you
you-
rode with someone, oh, I'm sorry, did you
Can
want?
can I speak to that? I think?
Yes.
So typically when you guys come to like the standing committee meetings and the county board, we automatically turn that into the financial department. Well, we don't know if people are riding with other people and it came to question that, is that an issue of other people riding? We won't know, and we will just automatically assume if you're here in person that you drove.
Yeah,
So it's kind of one of those county board things that
that they would have
You
to
might have
let
to let
you
us
know
know
that
that you didn't drive
deduct
yourself.
mileage because I caught a ride with Kim.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that had come from other counties asking if we still do that mileage reimbursement, so I had reached out to Vince and Tammy and Jay and say, hey, has this been addressed? We won't know, especially being here, I mean, we could have probably kept a better eye at the Justice Center, seeing who was
Yeah.
riding with who, because we were also walking in, but in here, we're already in here, I'm not paying attention to who's coming in and out, and it's that,
We could
At the
probably just
board.
make an announcement at like county board that if you did ride with someone, you should say something, because if you're collecting mileage and you didn't drive up here, that may not be good for you.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Now,
Our
when you,
ethics committee would come after.
Yeah,
you.
question on a Zoom meeting. You know, what happened to me with the fair board is they canceled their meeting in the afternoon and I never got to my computer. So I drove to the library in St. Croix and sat there by myself until one other.
waited
person,
for the meeting.
yeah, come up and said, oh, by the way, they canceled the meeting. I didn't turn anything in for that. But
Isn't
the
there,
next meeting was a Zoom meeting then.
isn't there something about showing up for a meeting? And if it's canceled, or if you showed up today and we didn't get a quorum, you'd get paid
Well,
because
I
you
mean,
showed up.
I don't
for the
care so
meeting.
much about that as to my next question is, if you got a Zoom meeting and it's a 2-hour meeting, you turn in a per diem for that, right? No mileage.
If you were, in, yeah, right, no
Yeah.
mileage.
If you're a member
Right,
of
so,
that
so,
committee,
okay, just to be clarify.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't turn anything in for that one. I mean, it's my own fault.
Freebie.
I didn't have my email with me all day, but you know, when you're on that sawmill, you ain't got time. to look
I
at it.
hear you, I hear you. It's the ones where they change the meeting date and you don't catch it.
Yeah.
And then you don't show up and the actual meeting happens.
Yeah.
Geez, we didn't have that a month ago, did we?
All right, how about, do we need subject matters for the next meeting or do we have enough subject matters going?
Well, we kind of see what comes up. Sounds like ethics is gonna be pushed back to May. So that'll be 2 meetings.
Yeah.
Sounds like we may have something on the fair, maybe not, but certainly.
If we don't, I mean,
That skirt is.
do we still need to get together or, I mean,
Well, if that was the only thing, I wouldn't think so,
Right.
because we're not fighting with them. I mean, we can read it and.
we're not fighting with them, we're conversing.
So do you want to, I mean,
Well, I think you guys kind of maybe decide a little bit, if we don't have business, why would we gather you guys up and
You're right.
us up? I mean,
And normally, it's not like the executive committee has a thick, robust work plan, because we kind of go on what transpires, so.
Right, we're not environmental services.
We're not.
I will let you
Yeah, we
know.
are. It's 2020.
So,
Almost. Now we are.
and Malia, can you communicate with us through emails without a meeting if you get, or is that not? gonna
I
work?
can, if I blind copy, so if I send it to say Mo as the recipient and then blind copy each of you, I can provide you information. And that way, if you replied all, it wouldn't start a walking quorum. So yes, I can communicate with
Yeah,
you.
and then if you let us know that it's just going sour or it's going very well with
Right,
getting an MOU.
yeah. No, I don't think there's
together.
any issue as long as you guys promise not to discuss anything. If-
Amongst,
As
with
soon as
each
he
other.
sends me something, I can send it to Mo and blind copy each of you so you can see as we're
You have
going
My right one.
what's
The
happening.
county one doesn't work.
Kim,
It doesn't work. What,
I
what
don't
can I
believe
do?
you. Let's walk up to IT together.
No,
All right, well,
I can't take another 2 hours. up
Say,
there.
I don't know where this item is on the
I get home and the
agenda.
password
Kim,
changes and again,
Kim, I don't know where this item is on the agenda.
it says stupid things being
Yeah.
done somewhere.
All right,
doesn't
well,
it?
we have one more item on the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh,
I'll
We're gonna
second it.
handcuff you to Jake for 1 hour.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
I get home and it's
Aye.
another
The
password.
meeting is adjourned at
And then it says, I can't take it.
1:17.
I can't take it when it just keeps changing.